The fisheye, huh?
Huh? Yeah, it's pretty wide, right?
Yeah, it's very fisheye.
These tabletops always remind me like we should play poker or something.
You play poker?
No, I was what I equate to that.
Because it looks like it's soft, that's why it's the broken house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the poker table.
Or I think a mahjong.
You're gonna be somewhere
Huh?
in Europe.
That's what I think of.
Exactly.
This is yours. Thank you. There we go. I don't bite onto this.
Well, you can if you want to.
It's a stress ball, Ken. You can do whatever you
Well,
want
your
with it.
stress ball, but chewing helps you calm down too, right?
I really wish that the video was running right now.
To watch that. You really want to.
Is this one for yours, sir?
No, it's yours. It's pink,
Okay, ready? Okay, we are at time.
Oh, yeah, we on.
Say it again.
Are we on?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we are on. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our Board Governance Professional Development Retreat. Wanted to welcome Ms. Deborah Keys for joining us here today. She knows our board very well, has conducted one of these with us before, or two of these before. This is our third one now. Also watches our meetings, so she's grown to understand the dynamic of ours. Everybody at this table should have met with her one-on-one already by now to kind of discuss some of the key aspects of the things we'll discuss today. And I just wanted to just kind of really open up the discussion for us to really work towards becoming the best governance team we can be. Everybody at this table is elected by their constituents in this community, representing many different parts of Hayward, the greater Hayward Unified School District. And I think everyone does bring valuable insight, experience, in themselves at this table. I think everyone is a valued member, has very unique backgrounds. And I just want to really create an environment where we're collaborative and we're willing to work with together and listen. I'll turn it over to our superintendent, Ms. Superintendent.
Yeah, want to share some of the echoes and the thoughts from Peter as well. I have a firm belief that folks are sitting around the table are all here for the benefit of kids, right? So we all have that in common. And I love the fact that we actually are very different people. I always talked about the fact that if I was creating a team, I would never create a team with a bunch of chimneys. There are downfalls to that in a major way because you don't want people that think like you. You want people to think differently. And we bring our strength to the table in a way that actually makes us whole in lots of ways. So I'm really hoping we can have some dialogue today and talk about how we can all collectively move the agenda and the strategies that we have important to our kids forward in a good way. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Thank you both for calling the meeting to order. Really quickly, we're going to do an announcement of certification services and a roll call. And then we'll be good to start. For the Spanish-speaking community, you will be allocated the full 2 minutes speaking time. Afterwards, the translator will address the board on your behalf. Please note, this is not a word-for-word translation, but a summary in some instances. Translation team, please.
Hay servicios de traducción disponibles si los ocupan. Estamos aquí ya en vivo por Zoom o en persona. Gracias.
And for our roll call, Trustee Prada,
Present.
Trustee Bruckner Carrillo,
Present.
Clerk Dr. Alvaruti,
Here.
Vice President Rowden, here, and President Buffetti.
Here.
And for administration, Board Secretary Chenny Fernandez. Thank you. And then Deborah, I did send you our land acknowledgement. If you could just quickly read that. It should be on your phone.
Okay.
the HUSD School Board respectfully acknowledges the original peoples of the lands on which our campuses are built. For thousands of years and hundreds of generations, the Choquinyo people actively stewarded these lands to ensure they provided for all living things. This land on which our district was established was and continues to be of significance to the Mi'kmaq Ohlone tribe. Today we acknowledge the impact that colonization had on Choquinyo, help me out here, okay. Mwakma, thank you. Ohlone tribe. Today we acknowledge the impact of colonization, sorry about that, nation, and recognize our responsibilities to help them heal from this history and secure a sustainable future.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And lastly, before we move on, a special notice regarding public speaking. This is a special meeting. We will not have general public comments this evening. We can only hear from the public on matters that are specifically on the agenda. Speakers will typically be permitted 2 minutes speaking time. A period not greater than 20 minutes is set aside to permit public comments, specifically for item B. Moving on to item B. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And I guess to start off the meeting, I think there was questions on whether we wanted to record a session or whatnot, so I just wanted to post to the group how we felt about that.
I was recording, so we'll hear your voices first.
I thought that was already addressed.
I thought it was already happening. Isn't that why they happen?
We don't have to have it
So,
on record.
Yeah, so I'll leave the setup for recording. We are recording right now. I think I talked to all of you individually about the fact that we're recording. There was a question that was posed in terms of whether or not a recording will allow us to be able to have the most efficient and collaborative conversation. So I think there was a understanding that we would revisit it at the beginning of this meeting. Obviously, we have the equipment set up, so if the board's directions continue to record, we're doing that right now. If the boards would like to change course, this is the time for us to think about it.
I personally feel more comfortable if it's being recorded.
I want to make sure that everyone's comfortable, and so I also would prefer that we stick with what I thought the plan was walking into the room, which is that we're recording this meeting and that we are posting it at a later time.
And my understanding from our agenda review was that we were going to record it, but not broadcast it and put it somewhere on our website that people wanted to go to it, they could.
That was also mine.
I don't care.
I think there's some value if it's not recorded, so it's less performative at this table when people just talk. But I can see either side. I don't feel strongly either way.
Okay, well, I share my 2 cents. It definitely is the board's decision, but just based on, and it's not just unique with this group, it's the training that I do all over the country. When boards have this time to engage with each other, work collaboratively together, it's not a board meeting, so we really want you to be free to speak open, honest, and candidly. And I believe when it's recorded that you really don't get that. And as you guys know, because you've engaged with me before, we're not just going to be sitting around. It's not a sitting here. We're going to be doing breakout sessions and then come back and speak. The only thing with the recording, I guess my only question is, who are we recording it for people to see? Because this is for your professional learning. Now, I can see if you want to just go back to learn more about what we talked about. But I don't know if I'm getting that understanding that that's why we want to record it. You should feel safe that this is a safe space to engage with your professional development, because that's what it is. My preference is that it would not be recorded, just so that we can be free. It's just for our training. It's not to prove anything to anybody who may look at it. So, but again, it's totally up to the board. I can work whatever way. I would just my thought was that it was not going to be just so that we can just have freedom to work through some of our challenges that we have, that is not just unique to this board, it's unique to governing. And it is for your professional learning opportunity. So no one needs to prove anything to anybody outside this room. It's for everyone who's in here, it's who it's for. So my preference would be that it would not be, but it's totally up to the board, you guys can decide. So I just wanted to be able to share that, my thoughts with you on the table. Totally up to the board.
I wish we would have worked this out before we started the meeting. I feel like I count 1, 2, 3 that thought that we were coming in today with like an agreed upon framework about how we were handling recording.
I truly thought that.
That is where we left off in the review.
And
And
so-
then in the conversation with Deborah right before the meeting, she goes, it may be more authentic conversation if we don't record it. I said, well, let me post it to the group and we talk about it here, because if we're now having a serial meeting, if we're gonna talk to every board member before the meeting, but we're not doing it.
Honestly, it's not that big of a deal to me, so if we don't wanna, I think that would be best on the table, absolutely.
I'm okay with, I would, whatever you recommend, Deborah, this is your session, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would want everyone to be fully engaged, and so I'm not trying to make it where no one would feel, don't want to engage if it's not. And so, I'm just gonna say, what is the will of the board? Because as a facilitator, I can go either way. I just want this to be authentic conversation, because you know, anytime I engage with you, it's not a sit and get. And whatever we pull together and then I give you the summary, then it's what you do after that. So even though you have 2 people leaving the board, there is some valuable information that this team needs to work through. And that's how I look at it. It's for the good of the district, for the kids. It's not about just individuals. And so again, what is the will of the board? What do you want to do? I'm okay with it. What do you want to do? What would you like?
I'm still in the same place.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable without it being
Okay.
recorded.
I think we stick with the plan that was agreed upon before we came to this room.
So record it, and it's just for your use.
And I don't disagree with you that a more authentic conversation comes from not recording it, but I think that we had an agreed upon framework.
Well, that's why it's being posed right now, whether we wanted to go away from that agreed upon framework. Because things can change, things are dynamic.
Okay, we can
So, we
stay
can
with
move on,
it.
yeah, that's done.
We're all good?
May I
Yes.
just ask for clarity, because Ali and I will be responsible for recording it, are we posting it?
Posting it meaning what?
Like to YouTube, how it is every meeting.
Well, that was not what we agreed on either. We agreed that we
Just to record it for the room.
would have it for posterity if somebody wanted to see it.
Yeah.
Can we agree with there?
I'm okay with that.
In the middle, is that okay? I want everybody to feel, you're good, Austin?
That works.
You got yours
But
in.
again, then what would be the purpose? I just don't understand it. Either is we're recording it and it's posted, or we're not recording it. I don't understand, because then if there's a thing that happens and it's for the benefit of the public, and then who gets to decide that it is or isn't posted? It either needs to be recorded and posted or not recorded,
Or
following our
sometimes-
typical stand. We
Right.
can't just.
That's your stand.
Well,
Right.
yeah, that's what we do. So it
But
just
just
doesn't make
another-
logical sense to move out of practice if that's what we're doing.
And another thought, some boards record it and just have it in their library, if you will, for, if you want to go back to reference. That's, again, whatever you're comfortable with, because it's not going to change what I do. And I'm going to expect engagement from everybody, but we won't be sitting here. So there will be gaps of space but we will come back together to report out what you did.
Weren't the last ones recorded and posted?
They weren't, I think they're recorded. I don't know if
They
they
were
were.
They were recorded and posted.
Posted.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
Like
let's
all
just
our other
stick
meetings.
to
Renee,
the
that's
same.
fine. Okay. We're good.
Okay.
Good. Okay. All righty. So it's just a matter of trying to come to an agreement. If we can get to a yes, that's fine. If we can get to somewhere where everyone's comfortable, that's good too. So we're here today, and I'm glad to see everyone. As you know, I have been watching your meetings. I just do that for a living. I watch everyone. That's why I told Ali, I feel like I already know you, because I see him back there where Jenna used to sit and trying to keep everything together. And it's been a pretty tough last couple of months for many districts, and specifically, I know what you guys have been dealing with. That's why I think the timing of this coming together, you had some heavy lifting to do, but the heavy lifting is not over with. This is going to be continuous. And so anytime I'm with you, just trying to give you some tools to be able to deal with the different nuances of dynamics and then whatever the topic is, because usually topic drives behavior. We all are individuals, but what we have to remember is, why are we here? We're here for the students, and everything we say and do should model that. And at times we need to step back and reflect, does that model what I took an oath of office to do, which is basically, just like doctors, do no harm to children. And so sometimes we get caught up in the emotions of whatever the topic is, and we kind of veer away from it. And that's why it's good for board members to come together and do some reflection, because you can only be responsible for your own behavior. But each individual's behavior impacts a team. And so that's what we're going to be discussing. And I just want to read to you what I put on here as the overall of what the retreat is going to be. So it is structured to foster collaborative collaborative teamwork and encourage student-centered decision-making, aiming to strengthen trustees' ability to work effectively with the superintendent in advancing the district's vision and mission. The agenda will focus on clarifying trustees' role and responsibilities, facilitating data-driven group decisions, and cultivating teamwork that promotes cooperative problem-solving alongside the superintendent. And this is the first time your superintendent has engaged with me doing this training, and this is also I believe this is your first retreat with your superintendent governance. So it's a way for you to get to know your team as well, outside of the sitting at the dais, and that's why it's important for board members to do this. But everything that you do as a governing body should be focused on students. And then when we veer off, that's when you can feel some of the tension in the room. Everyone wants to make their point, but if we talk to each other instead of at each other, you can find out you have more commonality. And so we're going to be engaging in different activities together to be able to let that come out. And as you know, all of you have engaged with me, there's flip chart paper around here. You're going to be writing some things out, and I collect that at the end, and I will write a summary for you. So, let me see. Okay, how we work, because we're really cool. We're not using this computer, but we're using that computer. There you go. So that's pretty much what our time together is going to be. We did that. Just again to rehash what the objectives will be. And I think every one of you can contribute to this to make it successful. And we don't solve everything at one sitting. It's just something when you walk away, what am I going to do because I know this now. So this is just my check-in with you. So tell us how we're doing. We doing as a team. I'm just going to go around, or whoever wants to jump in and just kind of share in this room, because we're talking to each other. We're not talking at each other. We're talking to each other. How are we doing? How's the team doing in governing together with your superintendent? How are you doing? Anybody, this is real informal, as you know, we just jump in. How are you doing? I'm gonna look right at Austin. Hi, Austin. You want to start, or you think? You don't have to start.
I don't want to start.
You don't have to.
If I have to.
No, you do not. This is informal. I just can see the wheels going on, no worries. How are we doing?
I think for the very difficult tasks and the very difficult that we've had, I think Chinna's done an amazing job and amazing work to get us through where we are now. The fact that we're not submitting a negative certification on our next budget, the fact that we've lost a lot of people, in these last couple of years, but we're still going forward. I see it directly from visiting the schools and caring for them. It's been hard. That's definitely a fact, but we're still getting through it. So I think there's something to be proud of there. But just don't understand that the road is still one that we still have to travel. It's still going to be hard.
Mhm.
But as long as we go into it with the best intentions and keeping the students at the center of everything,
Mhm.
we'll come out of it okay.
Absolutely. Anybody else? How are you doing? What do you think, Shay? You can jump in anytime.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I appreciated the fact that, we have the board meetings, right? And the board meetings are the formal spaces, as you mentioned, Deborah.
Mhm.
But I think that a lot of the work that I'm doing with board members individually are invaluable, and it definitely plays into how we, manage things together and go through the implementation of major things together. So I do want to state that, I feel like, again, this is a team that has, individually, we have different strengths, and I very much appreciated the actually different perspectives in terms of how it's shaping the road that we're traveling, and everyone's been really good about being upfront about the things that they want to see, the things that they want accomplished, and then it helps me to figure out how to shape the direction of the district in a way that's thoughtful. And then as far as a team, when we come together, I feel like we lifted some really hard things this year together. There was some hard decisions that we all had to level through, and I have felt supported by the board in some of those very hard decisions. These are not easy moves that we made in the last year. They will not be easy moves for next year as we continue to shape the things that we want to happen in the district. And so it's important to me that we continue our ability to be able to talk to each other in a good way, so that we can actually, those lifts become easier. I do recognize the conversations we've had over the last couple months about transitioning in November. I will tell you that I believe every day counts, right? And so the fact that November is coming, but that every day that we're together and we're moving the rock for the students are every day and every one of those days count. And so whoever's sitting in these seats are the ones that makes a difference for our kids. And so for me, November is November, but every day is another day that we get to make a difference. And I do believe that we collectively can do that and have experienced that this last year.
And I can appreciate you putting that in the space. There's 6 more months and there's a lot of work to do. And so we don't want to just say, well, and wishing for November to happen. By the way, there's still plenty of work. You're still sitting in the seat, you're still an elected official, you're still required to do the work. And I know you're all capable of doing it and don't want anyone to get discouraged. But I really appreciate you sharing your feelings about what's valuable to you as far as being able to interact with the board members. Because how many times you get a chance to say it collectively? You may have that conversation individually, but I think it's important to put it in the space and let all board members recognize from your view. Go ahead, Austin.
I think as a team there are moments when we kind of rally together, and I think these keys for your benefit, I worked with our county superintendent to have them come in and do a superintendent evaluation and board work plan process, and that was the moment I think like we as a team really rallied behind something, and we were all invested in it. I had the opportunity to work with April. So those are the moments that I appreciate. I think we have work to do to make sure that everyone on the team feels valued and respected and heard. There are moments where that happens, but the moments I think are few and far between sometimes, and I think I wish that, and I appreciate the folks that really made an effort to make sure that as the new kid on the block, like, you feel included, you feel welcomed, your value is seen, or opportunities for you to help add to the conversation are welcome.
Included is interesting because didn't you just make a Measure G poster without my name on it? You didn't include me on that thing?
I don't exactly know if that's relevant to our
No, just it's
session.
interesting you said it because you didn't include me on that.
I also texted and asked
So,
in a group chat with our superintendent after hours.
you sent it after, but
That is not true.
It is true.
Sent
You
it.
left me on, and you could have easily changed it. But you still pushed it out there without anyone on it.
That's just for the benefit of the recording. That is not an accurate statement, and I'm happy to turn over phone logs. And I immediately made the change last night after you said yes. You decided to respond to my text message. I made the correction, and that is what I have been
I
redistributing
have a
out.
receipt.
I was
I have a
also.
screenshot of it, but.
But see, what we want to do with teammates too is want to start out with good intent. That we don't want to assume the worst intended for anyone. I know you guys have experience, I know this group, so I know it's easier for me to say it than for you to do it, but we recognize this. And this is what I had mentioned to you guys before, you have to be intentional about not going back to, this isn't the first time what even Austin and maybe others have put in the space when we're together. The key thing is that each person has to be careful and be intentional about not doing. And if something is done where, whatever, what you two just shared, it could be a matter of a phone call, like, hey, was that an oversight? But you have to be willing to do that.
I want to add that I asked you about it, Austin, earlier because I was sending out the website and I just checked and you still haven't added Peter's name.
I am not in charge of the website.
Well, did it get issued? Did it get asked to, did you submit a request to add Peter's name?
Yes, with the consultants.
Okay,
Through the parcel tax that I was not selected to be part of, and
I'm just asking because
volunteered
I
to
know I
help.
asked you about it as well because I noticed Peter's name wasn't on it.
I
So if it went.
reaching out to just make sure, hey, by the way, we're publishing this thing. Do you want your name on this thing?
And it's a matter of communicating to each other, because
I mean, that's
again,
how I got it, through a text. It's just, I think I respond quicker or something.
I sent the text.
Through text.
Every person
and
received
this
a
is gonna
text
be a
message.
teachable moment, so I'm gonna let you
Well,
put it
that's
in
why
the
we're bringing it up,
space.
because that's why I'm walking into this space today,
It's just
feeling really wrong.
Peter,
I know.
I also, because I noticed it when I saw it last night, and Peter has been the one spearheading this effort and he and I are on a meeting every week for this parcel talk, so to see his name not there when I know he's doing all this behind the scenes work, like
How's the ballot signatory
and
on the thing?
I did, Austin, in fairness, I did ask, I just asked you, did Peter not want to be on the committee, and you assured me he did, and things were getting fixed, so I just assumed.
I had already sent it to you. So I texted Peter and Jen Tuesday, November 4th at 12:40 p.m. and that is where I asked.
This is something in November, you said.
Sorry, let me rephrase. I
Can I-
went too far up. I apologize.
Okay.
Can I also?
Jump in, go ahead.
I didn't, maybe I didn't see it. Are we talking about that yellow poster?
Mhm.
The fundraiser.
And I didn't look closely at that. I thought, oh, good, we have a poster. That's
Right,
really
that's
all I
all you-
thought.
Yep.
And that's as far as it went. Did you put everybody's name on it but
Except
Peter's?
Peter's,
There was
The whole board was on there?
yes.
everyone after they okayed.
I think it'd be worth a call though, Austin, if you didn't have that, and just say, Peter, you didn't want to be on this thing?
Well,
It was
Yeah.
it was an individual endorsement
Okay.
section, so like there's a lot of people on it, and whoever responded to, do you want to endorse this? And it's sent after hours. Whoever
But has this
responded-
board talked about whatever this issue is, whatever the
No.
This
motion
is
We
a-
would have had to have done it on our own time.
This is a political conversation about
Okay.
something that's on the ballot in June.
Yeah.
But
I-
again,
It lends to the miscommunication and I feel like any one of our names missing from that is a big
It
deal
would
because
cause
it's for
this.
our.
should be a call, absolutely, that's
Yeah,
what I
it's
was.
for
that's what I'm
any
talking
one
about
of
right
our
now.
names
Well,
missing.
to be fair, I went back and forth with Austin, because I wasn't sure I wanted my name on it. And so I reached back out to him, just because a lot of community members have felt like we haven't instilled trust.
Mhm.
And so the idea of not fully telling them, like, you know, this is what it, this is what it'll do. Da, 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 da. I reached out and had this conversation with Chin. And so, when he reached out to me through text, I was like, well, I'm not sure. Let me think about it. Da, da, da. I just thought about it within the same day. Then I reached back and I was like, you know
That
what?
was a group
Okay.
text, right?
Hmm?
That was a
Was it a group
right?
text or individual text?
No, it wasn't,
Individual.
because it would have been a brown eye.
Yep.
It also,
Oh, yeah.
I would just like to add regarding Measure G, I found out that the Measure G committee was meeting from a labor partner. There was no outreach to your board colleagues, Peter. There was no outreach to me like, hey, is there anything you want to help with? So
Shin should be the one communicating with you through that. We can't have more than 3 board members on the Measure G committee.
there wasn't even a, like, what can you help with? What do you want to
Shin,
help?
I thought you've been helping with security endorsements.
Yeah,
That's what she's been working with you.
So is that true? Who's the lead? This is what we're just trying to find out, who's the lead? I want to go into this thinking that there was no malice intended. But anything to do, period, anything to do with the board, it's a matter of communicating. Hey, do you want to be on this? Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't a Board of Education endorsement, it sounds like. It's an individual.
It's an individual, yes.
So what would hinder any board member from inquiring of their colleagues, who you all serve on the board together, to just say, do you want to be a part of this? There's nothing wrong with that.
Would that be the same for the committee that's running the, like, because I don't know much about.
Who's on the
this.
committee?
I think they're on the committee, but I didn't even know April and Peter.
Okay.
But I didn't know about it, didn't know it was being formed, didn't know anything until after it already happened. And so my question is, does that apply for everything that's going to be done? Like, would that have gone out in a loop, or is that a violation if it goes out in a loop, like, hey, we're forming a committee, off hours, you know, who's interested, what roles can we actually play without, you know, breaking any rules and stuff like that?
I also, like, I've helped raise $10,000 for the parcel tax, and rather than a thank you, Austin, for helping, it's a I'm not on the flyer, on the initial draft. That's your moment? This is the moment you want to gripe about that?
No, it's
when it's
fact,
being
you know for
recorded?
a fact, I don't want it recorded. We don't need to record because I'm trying to have an authentic conversation with you. You're trying to perform for this camera here. I'm telling you, I felt slighted when I saw that my name was there, because all you have to do is pick up the phone and go, Peter, I'm following the flyer right now. Can you just make sure, tell me or not you want to be a host or not? That's all you have to do.
Peter, if I had
You
a
did not do
dollar
that.
for every
Okay.
moment you've made me feel slighted as a board
Okay.
member, we would not
Okay.
need a parcel
Okay.
tax.
And so you guys always give me great learning opportunities. This is your own scenario of what happens when you're not caring enough about your colleagues to just communicate, because that's what it sounds like. You choose. It's not that you don't know how to communicate. You are choosing who to communicate to. It's pretty obvious with this team.
But
So let's put it out here, because I know you well enough. You pick and choose who you want to communicate. That is never going to end up well. And what I want to do is get you to, number one, to be a school board member, there is nothing in any of the brochures that you read that says you have to be good friends. What you do need to do is be collegial with each other and serve together as a collective body. Even though this isn't an issue for the board to endorse, I just want, but if you don't practice that, when you get away from a collective board endorsement of something, this is what can happen. Because you're not investing any time individually in each other, you're not caring that much about each other. So if that continues to fester within this team, it's going to continue to happen. And you will have this explosiveness when we're trying to come together for the good of the team to focus on what's best for kids. And when you're butting heads about you said the Measure G tax, does that have anything to do with your job, your role as a school board member? Focusing on kids?
I think it does when it comes into our board relations. But I think, we said it with communication, I think this is easily avoidable if Austin picks up the phone and just, hey, Peter, I'm filing the flyer before I send it out. Do you want to be on it?
Yeah.
Because I don't want kids who see that or like, oh, why isn't it supported by so-and-so or not? Maybe they don't even notice, but at the same time, I don't feel like that's a very that wasn't a very team player kind of move.
There's about 30
That's
people that I
about-
called in
okay.
less than a 48-hour period.
And one of them
another
wanted me.
2,000.
Right, and I
You,
hear
Austin.
you, and I hear you.
Good job. That's all you do.
The key thing I want you guys to really think about, that's just this Measure G. You think about other instances where maybe Austin can say, I felt this way because of April may say, I felt this way. Sarah and Kent, I felt this way because you did X, Y, and Z. What is common here is the lack of communication with each other. You're selecting who to communicate with. That is impacting this board. It continues as I watch the board, I'm watching your interaction. And when you are not willing, because it's not that you're not able to, you're not willing to meet your colleagues halfway, you can think totally different. That is okay, because you all have your different lived experiences, your lens, your expectation is all different, and there is nothing wrong with that. You're selected to work together. This is just a good example of one of the things that any board member feels slighted. If you know that just the information that if you know that there is a committee and 2 people are on the committee, it probably would have been a good gesture to just say, hey, they're on the committee, they're my colleagues, let me just call or email, whatever, text, whatever you. I understand that you're saying you had 30-some people, but you're not on the board with 30-some people. Not saying that the other 30 people are not good and powerful relationships. If we're trying to get this team to a better place, everyone needs to be intentional about doing something different. When the same behavior is happening, you're going to get the same results. Okay? I'm letting you finish this up, but this is the place to put it in the room. But we're not going to talk about it in a way to call anybody out. It's going to be a teachable moment, because I'm going to wrap this all weave it into everything we've been talking about, because you guys give me great examples of what you need to step back and reflect. Was that the best way to handle that? That's all we're trying to get to. Go ahead, Austin.
Do you know how many times I reach out to my colleagues to try to set things up? I think everyone knows I make the effort. And do you know how many times, Peter, that goes unanswered from you?
Because I don't want to hang out with you on my weekends.
Honest.
Like, my weekends are for my family.
Yeah,
like,
and
the only time you're available is on the weekends. I can't. Just do
That's
that.
not
We can
entirely
do it on
true.
weekends.
I've met
Okay.
all of my colleagues at times that work for them.
And we've hung out before, but I didn't feel like when we did that, I don't think you came in with good intentions. Just like what happened yesterday. You did not have good intentions by leaving me out that flyer. You can't lie about that.
I guess you can speak to my intentions.
Yes, I can. Because why would you do that? Why would you leave the board president of the school district for the parcel text for the school district that he's the ballot signatory for?
So, I don't know, are you finished?
Answering this thing? Yeah.
So, I think this is honestly because we're not a team. We tolerate the times we're forced to be in a space with each other. We may have been a better team before, but like, in my personal opinion, I know how I am in these spaces. I don't trust these 3 after what they did in December, and therefore I always show up guarded. The only person I feel like I can communicate with who actively listens and seems to care is Austin and Chin. And so I don't have trust in this quote unquote team. And so for something like this to happen, it doesn't shock me. For remarks from the board president that at times come off, in my personal opinion, as like belittling and snapping sometimes during the board meeting or during this to kind of like selectively check us. With the history, it's not taken like, okay, well, he's just a little stressed or this and that, whatever. It's taken as this is a continued pattern, and it grows, it continues to grow the distrust. And I'm just speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for anybody else. And so
What's an example?
I just like 2 minutes ago, you told him to be quiet and listen.
Yeah.
But you're not his father, and I think if Deborah said just let me finish or something like that, it's within her place. But there are times when you kind of snap or get like upset, and I really, for your own benefit, I think like there should be some more like just breathing. You don't have to control every board member, you know.
It's not a control of the board member to respect them, somebody speaking.
And so,
I haven't said the F word at one of our meetings before. I haven't gone on a rant and started saying a bunch of expletives. I can control myself to that extent. I have decorum there.
Okay, finish. So. Breathe. Come on, you guys.
So,
We're
what
gonna
I'm
get over
saying.
this, aren't we?
So what I'm saying is like, it's super obvious that trust is broken.
Yeah.
There's super obvious that there's pain at the dais. And in order to like gain trust, rebuild, whatever in the short amount of time that we have, like, one, people have to feel safe. And so I said, I personally don't feel safe in this space. And so, and so that's how I personally feel. I don't know how anyone else feels, but I get a lot of anxiety
Coming to the board meeting?
coming to the board meetings, coming to closed session, coming here today, being here today. So yeah, a lot is broken, and we might not have enough time to fix it because we have to focus on the kids. And that's what I tell myself when I come in. I'm like, I don't have, like you said, you don't have to like each other, take a deep breath and do what the job in front of us tells us to do. So,
Yes.
So, I have to respond to some of the things that you said. So, when you're referring to December, I assume you're referring to the election of officers of the board?
yeah.
It was a vote. It was a 3-2. And Sarah, for whatever you might think, I like you. I like working with you. I think you have such a potential to be a wonderful board member. That night, I saw an opportunity for myself, knowing my term was coming to an end, and I just grabbed it. If that deceives your trust, then I'm sorry again, all over. But it wasn't, and I haven't communicated with you because you told me not to. I think a quote was, I don't want to hear from you, don't email me, don't text me, don't do any. So
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do?
I don't mind
I
you
get along
being-
with her, him, and him.
I don't mind you being vice president. I would have liked to serve with you.
But
And
you were accosting me in the parking lot.
please don't say I
Verbally.
accosted you. I did not verbally accost you in the parking lot.
You kind of did,
I
and nobody
did
was
not.
there to see it. So, what can I say?
Okay, there's a theme, a common thread here, but I'm gonna go over here to April. April, what would you like to share? Because after this, we're gonna move on. What would you like to share?
I mean, Deborah, I was honest with you, like, this feels like an impossible task you have. We hired a restorative group and spent, I think, $15,000 to do a restorative circle with this group after we had a major explosion on the board. And they basically deemed like, nope, no more for you all. So like, it's not as if we haven't tried. But I think the hard part is that there has been harm done, and there's never been like people held accountable for their part in it. And so yes, there is a lot of pain at this table, and there is a healthy way of like, for me personally, of what I feel is like holding boundaries for myself around engagement, because I also feel I'm like, this isn't a safe space. I also get anxiety coming here. It's a hostile, toxic work environment, and I have done everything that I can to like move on from the things that have been wrong to me, that have never been apologized to for them. I've never received any acknowledgement of wrongdoing or reparations. So like, I'm not interested in this effort, honestly. I'm interested in, I'll talk all day about the superintendent's work plan, but I don't really think.
No, we're gonna get, I understand, but I just wanted this space to.
Yeah, and I'm naming what you're asking. I don't think we're doing well. I think we just had to make a really hard decision, and it was a 3-2 vote. And that undermines the superintendent and the work of her staff when things like this happen, when we're not a unified board, or when the public listens to this right now. This is what undermines trust in our district. It undermines trust in our board. It's why I cannot get people willing to come and take 2 open seats because they don't want to work in this. And I don't blame them. No rational person would want to step onto this because this is a mess. So that's
I
where
appreciate
we are.
it, and exactly, so I just needed to get this on, because I knew it's bubbling to the top. And what I do is take what you're saying, and we're still gonna work through some processes, but period. If this board, the Board of Education is gonna be here when you guys leave. No one owns these seats, it's gonna be different. I would hope any group that is serving as the Board of Education cares enough about the district that you want to make sure that while you are serving, you're focusing on governing at the highest level so that your superintendent can feel supported and do the work, and that the kids are reaping the benefit. It's always about student outcomes. But when the discussion that is causing this team to bump heads and not get from point A to point B has absolutely nothing to do about student achievement. It has everything to do about personal. Our personal conflicts, what you did to me, that has nothing to do with an agenda item if we're talking through it as a governing team. And so each individual needs to take some ownership of how you're contributing to the dysfunction of a governing team. And yes, it would not be attractive for anyone to volunteer to come into dysfunction. Who would want to do that? Who has the capacity with everything in this country that we're dealing with today to say, I'm going to volunteer to go into a very toxic environment? But it's for the good of the kids. But you can't, all the skills that you're bringing, every one of you have phenomenal skills. But it's only going to be impactful when you work together. And I've said this to you before, and I say this to board members all the time. If you choose not to do anything different, this is what you're going to always get. And it will harm the district eventually. Because number one, no one wants to serve. And eventually, and I'm not saying, Jen, that you're leaving. I just say this about any superintendent. A board who is modeling dysfunction makes it very hard for a superintendent to serve at the highest level. Other people see that, and your superintendent does not even have to go look for a job. They will come get them. And then the board is going to start all over. Anytime there's disruption at that level, the board is causing that. So if you really care, and I know you guys all care about children, I think you're letting the interpersonal challenges get in the way of you going forward to focus on governing work. And again, you don't have to like each other. You all volunteered to be on a team. You didn't volunteer to work individually. Everybody's doing a great job. That's not what you volunteered for. And you only have your seat. You can't control who gets on the board. Your oath is to work with the team to the best of the ability. You want to make it not be a toxic environment. You want to respect everyone's voice. All those things are important. Things that we share with our kids on how you should act in a team environment. We're just children who have grown up to be adults, and we still act the same way. You know, I just continue. I have faith in boards of education. I really believe. And when I first engaged with you, I said, this is going to be a team that is going to do things differently. I still will always have hope. It's just that sometimes you let yourself get in the way, and it becomes emotional, and then it becomes personal, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your agenda items, because you all have something to contribute. When we get to this work plan, just what's going to come out of, because I know each of you, that's the work. But if you can't even talk about this because you have a bone to pick with someone, you can't even focus on the work, which is going to help the superintendent. We're going to focus on 26-27 school year. She needs some information from you, but not when we have this going back and forth, and you guys have it. You're a great team. You just have to learn how to get outside of yourself and say, I'm doing this for the good of this district because I'm in this elected position. Let's stay focused on this, period. That's it. I think I saw your hand, and then I think you were.
Yeah, I just wanted, for the sake of the board, to know that the reason that I'm on the committee is because 2 years ago, before you were even on the board, while Jason was still superintendent, I went around and talked to all of the council, met with them, met with George Syrop, who gave me information about who to talk to on a parcel tax. I'm the one that got that whole ball rolling. And so when I handed it off to Jason and then meant handing it off to Chin, Peter's our board president, so I'm the one who did the legwork behind that. It was obvious that, I mean, I was the first person on the committee. So it made sense for me to continue. And you're probably right, we should have had something, but it's a weird thing because it's supposed to be what we do in our off hours. We can't ever talk about it as a board. So it probably should have been a text or something. It was an oversight, but that's why the logical reason for me being on the committee, obviously, and then Peter as our president would have been the second person.
And
So.
I don't have a problem with any of that.
I just wanted to let the board deserve to know,
Yeah.
and there is a rationale
And-
behind why, so.
And that's what I wanted to say,
yeah.
because you keep saying, you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're speaking to all of us, but every time you said something, I'm kind of going, I think I do that, I think I do that, I think I've done that. So I just want to ask you, have I done anything that's like not collaborative with any of you? Anything?
I have no problem with you,
Yeah, Austin. I'm sorry.
But it's not, but it's not to your question.
Oh.
So, I can wait.
So Ken gets a gold star.
And that's why I intentionally do that, because yeah. But again, it needs to be focused on the work and
Of course.
collaboration. And we can say all these things,
Oh,
but
I
do
know
we
why,
model?
I know why I brought it up.
Go ahead.
Because your initial question was, where are you?
Where are you? Yeah.
And so my answer to that, honestly, it has nothing to do with our relationships
Okay.
or anything. It has to do, everything to do, I'm numb, I would have to say. I became numb. I became numb about $54 million ago, and I know I should be getting over it by now. And I'm trying to shake it off. And I'm doing the job because that's what I committed to do, and I'm done with it in December. So where I am is that I feel a little bit like what a lame duck president must feel like. You know, I see much to be done,
What's to be done?
and I just feel like I'm floating along because I don't really have any influence at this point anymore.
Yeah, and you should be able to talk about it for the good of the team.
That's where I feel.
I don't think that's true, Ken.
I know you don't. I know you don't. And I know you're probably right at the end of the day. That's but when you ask how I'm feeling.
Well, I do feel like there's references to like, we're getting new people in November, or like all the time, that kind of help maybe put that undermining in your head, but.
It's also we can't do anything that we want without any money to do it. So like even if there were things in our final
Okay,
stretch,
yeah.
there's no opportunity for that to happen. So I understand that feeling as
And plus how
well.
much the arts got hit too.
And that's really been the big thing.
But there still should be discussions, because you shared with me, everything I want to do costs money.
Yeah,
remember?
everything, yeah.
But why aren't you guys still talking about it? Because everything you said had absolutely nothing to do with student outcome, academics, the work, it's all how you're feeling. And once we acknowledge that, we have to get really beyond that, because it is going to get tougher to govern at the highest level with people who don't value public education. There are entities that are watching what governance teams are doing and saying, that's why we don't need them. Look at that behavior. Districts being taken over, not because of student outcomes or finance. It's the governing team that's causing a lot of problems. So many will say, we don't need them. Let them appoint and put some people in there who will let the superintendent just run the district and do what they want. I'm not a proponent of that. I definitely support public school board members. It's just a matter of you have to agree to govern. That's all we should be talking about. Once that gavel hits, if you don't want to talk to me or go have coffee with me, okay. I just think that would be a loss to you if you choose not to. But that's your prerogative. But when we are together, we talk about the work at all times. Talk about the work. And just with this Measure G, I would just want any board member to step back and consider how would my colleagues respond to this. We have a committee. Just be more thoughtful and inclusive of thinking about how it will look. It's okay to do that, because it's better to do that than to have it, when you don't do it, then we have this type of situation. thinking that, oh, that was intentional. They didn't want all the negative things. And then all it was could be just a simple conversation. Go ahead, Austin, then we're going to go on.
Like,
Oh yeah, I forgot to.
to acknowledge that it was an oversight to not make the rest of the board aware of the Measure G committee and the membership, and that it had started meeting, I think is fine, appropriate. I believe it was an oversight. But then to have a similar, perhaps, oversight, or from me, have to be a point where we're discussing it among all of our board, rather than picking up the phone and just asking why you weren't on it.
It's funny that
it
you
makes
around
it
that way, then you could have called me too. This is easy for me.
Peter, I also was prioritizing people who were an easier ask, who, like, while balancing other things in my life, this is a volunteer thing, as we all know. Like, I had been asking about, is there a fundraiser, is there a fundraiser? Chen called me at like 10:30 at night. We were talking and she said yes to a fundraiser. I texted our mayor, we picked a date, and I texted Cheryl Cook-Calio was my first person, and raised some money, and then that was it. Like, I am allowed to get things wrong. Like, I'd never, full disclosure, when I ran, I didn't do host committees. I actually think they're kind of silly. But it's a thing that everyone else does, and so I was like, I can do this, and maybe I didn't get it right. But also, you asked to be added, I added you. And then to make it personal where you're accusing me of lying, like,
The timing of which was weird, because I said I wanted to do it, and then I literally see you 5 minutes later upload the old flyer without me saying, and then you say to me, oh, it's too late. That was after I texted you. That's why I know it's not. That's why I know you still sent it. At the same time, it's just weird for you to even not even try to confirm if I'm on there. You even push something out there, that's all I'm saying. It's weird for you to sit here and say that you don't think it's weird to leave me off of there. It just doesn't feel genuine to me. It just doesn't. And that's, I do apologize for bringing that up, but at the same time, I don't think I can sit next to Austin for the next 4 hours without addressing that, because he's sitting here going that we don't include him. When he literally just did the same thing to me yesterday. So I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to sit here and let you say that we don't include you when you're doing the same thing you're saying, accusing us of.
Okay. And this is going, just kind of remember of what the feelings are when this happens. And I'm sure everyone can kind of, again, it's going to be some reflection, because everyone should kind of reflect on how have I contributed to X, Y, Z. And so we're going to move on, but we needed to pull this out because, again, I know this group and I understand what's been going on and some feelings, how people are feeling not valued, respected. And when those descriptors are present in a governing body, it is going to surface in a negative way. Because no person on this team should feel like they're not valued. Everyone has, number one, you have a right to be here. No, a board member, you can't put another board member off. You don't have the authority. Unless there's something so egregious where collectively, again, you have to have 3 to say, censure them or something like that, but you can't kick any board member off. So the key thing is no one should feel disrespected. And if you don't talk about it, like when it happens, talk to each other. Now that was something that wasn't a board meeting, but when it is a board meeting and you feeling some kind of way, what is wrong with talking to the person after the board meeting? Because if you don't address it, it's going to fester, it's going to build momentum, and it's going to be blown out of proportion. You guys choose not to talk to each other afterwards. And this is what happens. And it's going to get in your way. It will get in the way going forward. So, I want you to just think about see it says think about it. I'm telling you say what I want you to think about. Okay. I'm going to share a brief prompt with you. And I forget I'm not on this computer, I'm on this one. Okay, when you hear student well-being, just that top of the name, student well, what does it mean to you as a leader? All of you are leaders. So what does that mean to you as a leader? So I want you to think about that, but I want you to think about it in this way. Think of this question in terms of, it's just to consider, what environments or supports enable well-being? What role does leadership play in fostering it? And what does it look like in action, not just policy? When we're focusing on student well-being, which should be the focus of the work we're doing, I need you to take some time and think about what that is. Kind of jot it down, and then you're going to end up transferring what either what you put. You're going to put it on a flip chart paper. We're going to have it around because we're going to stay centered on students. So I'm giving you a few minutes to those. That's just a prompt, but I need you to be able to describe what does it mean to you as a leader when we're talking about student well-being. Okay, so. Yeah, the glass is good. So whenever you're ready, just come grab a marker, and we have flip chart paper on all the glass, the windows. So 2, 2, and 2. You just write it.
What's the answer to 1 on this one? Answer to 2 on that
Whatever the question is, when you hear student well-being, what does it mean to you? And you can take in consideration those questions.
Okay.
You're not really just answering those questions. So pick whichever one you want and just write it, make sure it's legible, and go from there.
It's called cat and baby.
Should have knocked off Hello Kitty.
This is number 2.
Oh. Wait. Where's number 3 then?
I think we're
It's on, it's
Just
however
writing-
you wanna write or respond.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is it legible?
I hope so.
Is it legible? Just grab your marker. There's 2 in there and then 2 in the other one.
Oh, we're each getting our own? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I need it, yeah.
We got there.
Yep, you each have your own.
Where did you say the markers were?
Right there.
Thank you.
There's two, and then there's another, so pick one, whatever you want.
Was it just we write on, in response to any of the three?
Yeah,
They're not numbered?
they're not coming here, that's just to consider you, kind of steer you in the direction of, it's just a prompt. Just to be able to tell what that means.
This one? Whichever one's on.
Whichever one's blank, yep, go ahead, you can use that one.
You want to make it shorter?
No, this background is there.
It's distracting you?
Yeah. Can I put, maybe we'll,
I don't know if you're supposed to write on the walls.
That's probably good.
I don't think this will hurt the wall.
I think we can leave it this far.
Or if you're writing like,
I think we can fit one more here. We can fit one more over here.
Or
Ken?
can she call one, you open that up more, you can put three.
Yeah, we can put that one over here, Ken.
Oh, that's what I did.
Ken? It can go here.
Is it just,
Teacher, did you write one?
no, I'm going to,
You're
yeah.
going to?
Yeah. Do we just continue to let it record, or do we pause, is there pausing until they come back? You know how they do the music thing?
I'm not sure if, I can pause it, yeah.
I didn't know how, I thought it was like music.
We'll end up bringing them all in here, like, so we're gonna talk about it in here. But I needed to spread it out, because not everybody could do it.
Okay.
So once they're done, we'll put them, and then kind of put another one here.
I'm sorry, we had a crisis at work. Someone didn't
Oh,
show
no.
for their shift, so I had to
You can handle it.
figure it out.
No, life still goes on.
Oh, there's.
There's one over there?
Yeah.
I think when they're finished, can you bring the ones in here?
Deborah? You use glow in the dark?
Hmm?
Use glow in the dark?
No, they don't. Not those. I did have some that glow.
They have space on them, I assume.
My grandkids too.
Oh,
That's my toy box. Is that your toy box?
how many grandkids, if you don't mind me
I
asking?
have 6 grandkids. 6. Yeah. 5 boys and 1 girl.
That's awesome. Are they all where you live?
No, 4 of them, 3 of them are in Tennessee. One's in Michigan, and 2 are in outside of Atlanta.
Ah.
The oldest graduates this year.
Atlanta has a really great, it's called the Painted Duck. It's like in a basement of this building, but it's like, it's a bar, but they have food as well, and they have like, just the best games. It's, you can play like, pool, but it's with a soccer ball, and you just kick it, and some like really like
Oh,
oversized shuffleboard and all kinds of cool stuff.
okay.
Super
That's
fun.
unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how often do you get from the West Coast into the outside?
Not enough. Not enough. I joke that I'm the poorest in my friend group. Both me and my partner.
So exactly, make your friend up.
I don't know.
Since they have it that way.
Yeah.
Just say,
They
"You
all,
sure wanna go with you?"
they all, you know, I work for the government and he works at a federal clinic. So we make, $5. But
No, I figured up higher.
So just grab that off of it.
He still wants to write on it.
Oh, you wanna write some more?
Yeah, I know what to do, just fold this over the top of it. Are you all done?
Yeah.
Ken, why don't you put it right there? Do you not see what we're trying to have you do?
He wants to write more.
Yeah.
You can write more on there.
What are you doing, Ken? You want another?
No, I'm good. She's right.
Ken is a teacher. There, you want another piece of paper? You want another piece of paper?
Is there any more water or put around,
I don't know. I think we only bought soda.
isn't there some in the fridge? Through the.
Is it fridge?
It's actually, yeah, it's a really nice fridge. I think they do.
It's in the kitchen? I'll find
Yeah.
it. I'll find it.
I'm pretty
You
sure
don't
that-
have to- You don't have to.
If not, you can have some of mine, Greg got it.
Yeah.
I know, they didn't show it to me when I took a tour, but they let me know.
But people actually live there, live upstairs.
No, they're conference rooms, but they're
This is
for,
a private residence. The rate is not.
Somebody on the
yeah.
house,
Yeah.
right? Like in the
But they're like, they're
room.
not the same design, they're very modern upstairs.
Oh.
There's only
so
hot
it's like
sauce,
very
Diet Coke,
homey.
and frozen,
Yeah.
Timber bags.
I might break down.
Yeah, so
So
I
I
thought
cook
at
a little
the
later.
beginning of the
I
restaurant, they let us use up there, cause they actually
bought
had
a
a
couple
TV
of rice.
upstairs.
And then
You
they-
did?
But they let me.
I
use
thought
it.
about it, but I don't have it.
There's a,
More executive people.
And it's for their board and stuff.
Yeah.
random convenience store right down the street from my house, so. That's where I go on the way here.
Of course she is.
A visual learner,
Visual.
apparently.
How you guys doing?
How's Bernie?
Bernie's good. He's going into the groomer on Monday. Monday?
Where do you take him?
I take him to Petco out in, Santa Luna.
Oh, that's right.
Because every other Petco has, to get to the dog grooming part of the store, you have to walk through the store.
And,
And there's
off.
dogs and distractions and pets and everything else. And
Yeah.
I tried that once and he nearly destroyed the place. You know, and out there they have like a separate entrance for the dogs.
The last time I took them to the vet by myself, Scrappy knocked over a potted plant and then freaked out Rivers, and then she got under the chair and took the chair. Like, it was so bad.
Yeah, it can go all kinds of sideways real fast. Walks continue to be a challenge. I hold that leash so tight.
We have started giving Rivers gabapentin. Before he gets gabapentin. This is what it does in people, but it's like it's anxiety thing for dogs. And that's what we give her before we give her that. And it's actually, and they clip her nails. It's awesome. She has a heart murmur and milks it. It's very small one.
When I get home from my vacation, which I have now booked, I'm going to,
Oh, you did book it.
Where are you going to ship?
I'm moving back to the Mediterranean. I have to, I couldn't. Well, some of the same places that I've already gone, but to Croatia this time too.
What, any parts in Italy?
I want to get that over here. Yeah.
Oh, that's one sure.
It's on
First is
I won't be
I've never been. Sure. You know what did it? You don't really decide on it? Was that vegan lunch that I was talking about?
No.
Where did you go?
This is so, I'm going back to the Mediterranean on my vacation.
Oh,
so
okay. Nice.
I was gonna do Japan.
You know what's a really good vegan place is Veggie Lee's. Have you been there?
Yeah.
I think I had that with you.
Where is that?
Really?
Yeah, you and I had that.
I've heard of this. Where is
Veggie
that?
Lee's is
Target.
near Target on 8th Street.
They have really good
Have you been there,
vegan
Kim?
options.
No, it's
Really
Chinese
good.
I haven't ate, I ate my best. It's Chinese food?
Yeah, Veggie Lee's, it's all vegan Chinese.
Oh, no.
Vegan or vegetarian.
It's not the
right?
vegan that I care about. It's the, like, I don't know. I can't even tell you what I ate.
Your
But it was one of those
meat.
delicious lunches.
It says it's not.
And it was all, there was no meat
It's
at all.
not real, according to Derek.
Falafel.
If you wanna go.
Falafel.
Oh, I love falafel.
Yeah.
I like to go to the whole.
Ken, this is you, right? This your handwriting.
Mine is the black.
You know?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, I didn't finish mine. I do in the bathroom.
You guys gonna talk about your colleague here. So you can put one line. You gonna put some more up there?
Yeah, no, I do it in the bathroom.
Well, yeah, I thought we were just responding to one of those questions, so
It
I
was-
just picked one to respond
And
to.
it's okay, I just need you to be able
Well,
to
I did, but
explain.
then I, this is what I always do. I go off on tangents.
This was just a prompt to get you to explain it.
Ken just looks for anywhere he can talk about what he really wants to talk about. He's like a typical
You
politician.
need, like, roll your eyes. I saw that.
So these were to prompt you to think about it when you want to describe what well-being.
You can tell I interrupt really bad when it doesn't kick in.
They don't know how fast it is.
This is going to be a pain to drop.
Oh, so she's coming with you.
Sorry,
What?
Strong teachers have like, children and society. Sorry, Paul, people.
Okay, sounds good.
I know.
The next one, she's probably going, what are you
I thought
doing?
that.
But I
So I was looking at your like logo on your agenda. And I was making it bigger, and then I realized you were drawing.
Okay, so this is really addressing your why. Because your why should be about students' well-being. So before, when I've engaged with you, I would have that just a question, what's your why? And you pretty much share with the group, why did you choose to do this volunteer job that sometimes it feels like it's thankless? But if we can identify and articulate what student well-being actually means, and that be the center of everything that you do, engaging with your agenda should reflect student well-being. So if I looked at your agenda, would I know that you're talking about academic success, student outcome, or all the other adult stuff that we end up talking about? Knowing that there are things by law you have to talk about, we get that. But your agenda should represent the business we're in, and that is educating students. So when I talk about real simple changes that the board can make, your agenda is one of them. You don't have your goals yet, your strategic plan yet, right? But the superintendent has the called your work plan, and there are 3 priority areas. So your agenda, everything you talk about, does it have everything to do with that? That's what I should hear discussions from the board. So right now we're going to build up to that. So anyone wants to come up here, stand up here with me, and explain to your share with your colleagues, what does student well-being mean to you? Anybody who wants to do theirs?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I just wrote, and it was I wrote loving, supportive, positive, caring environments, allowing the student to be seen, heard, and felt, addressing the whole child, 360 supports, school, family, community resources and outlets. I think there's just from a basic standpoint, I think that's how you promote student well-being is kind of just that core concept. I guess I'm getting too much deeper into it, but I think it's really about, for a kid, if you put yourself in their shoes, being seen, being heard, being felt is the one that probably resonates most with me.
And as a board,
an adult validates that you matter.
Right, there you go.
That matters, that's important.
And I always want you to think about it through the lens of governing. As a board member, how do you ensure that that happens through your own employee? So when I always say, what does that look like? How do I know? You're telling me this. How would you articulate that or share that to your superintendent to ensure that it's happening? Because whatever you put up here, there is an expectation that this is happening in your district. So if you had to share with your superintendent that this is what you feel it is, what do you expect her to do? This is a learning experience for your superintendent to be in this session with you guys for the first time. What would you say? How would you sum that up and what you would expect for her and her staff to do?
Well, I see it just in the little things, like addressing the whole child. I'm thinking SEL work that we do in the district. Being seen, heard, felt, our PBIS work.
That's what I wanted you to do, make those connectors.
We're talking about loving, supportive, positive, caring environments. I see everything from family engagement, how we're supporting the families, the connecting to the community resources. So I see I can directly identify the places in our district that we're doing those things. Yeah.
Absolutely, great. And again, connecting those dots, because we say these things, but until they're connected, that helps the superintendent. That's like a directive. She knows this is what the board is expecting me to work on. And there needs to be some evidence eventually, right? They can be working on it, but eventually the board wants to see evidence of success. Okay? Okay, who else? Go ahead, Austin, we'll share yours.
On the bottom left.
Okay.
That we're investing in the programs and supports that are closest to the classroom, that have an impact, and that are backed by data to meet the needs of the most marginalized students, staff, and families.
So again, what would you share with your superintendent, what that looks like? What would you want to see? Maybe it's already happening?
I think I agree with Peter. I would like to see, or I appreciate when there's data, not just across specific age groups or feeder patterns, but actually like we're looking at data regarding foster care kids who are chronically absent, or foster care kids who are English language learners, or like the more strategic investments that, while it's a small number of students, I think that's an easier plan to put together about how do we invest in this smaller student group to make sure that the programs are uniquely tailored for what they're going through at home, what
Mhm.
works for them and their families. And then I know the thing I always talk to Jen about is bringing in, she does a great job of bringing in outside revenue. I do feel that we have an opportunity to get our fair share from Alameda County to make sure that the county government, not just the county office of ed, but all of our departments at the county are really contributing and investing in our schools and programs.
And just remember, through the lens of governing, your task is just to identify the what. And you should be so glad that you don't have to figure out how to do it. That's your superintendent's job. But when you targeted certain kids, what board members have to do is make sure that you ask, like the data you mentioned. Be very specific. If it was something like, what is the data for 3rd grade boys in math? Because that's what you want to know about. So that if there's a core group you're trying to get to, so instead of saying, just give me all the data on how our kids are doing in math. No, because that's not really answering your question. Once you know that there's data there, now it's up to the board to specifically ask, what are you trying to get to? So you think about the outcome, and then you start unpacking, what are you really trying to get to? Okay?
Getting more granular.
Granular, absolutely. Because the superintendent and staff will give you everything in the kitchen sink. But the board doesn't need to know all that. Be very specific on what you're asking for. And I always say to the board, why are you asking? I get my new space over here. You're asking because eventually you're going to talk about it at the board meeting. It's something, it could be 6 months down the road, or 2 months, or 2 weeks. You're asking not that you just want to know. Because if you just want to know, that's your one-on-one with superintendent. Ask her. But if it's something that the board has to make a decision on, that's where you want to drill down into getting that information. Because you cannot make an informed decision if you don't have all the information. And this is where you trust each other to look at what lens they're looking, pay attention to the lens they're looking to, because you may not ask the same question. But you have that aha moment like, yeah, I wanted that information as well. That's why it's important for everyone to ask questions, and the superintendent staff can know this is what the board is going to expect when we do a presentation. That better be in the presentation. This is what she's sharing with her staff. Because if the staff doesn't get any direction on what the board wants, you're going to get everything. And then that's when you're going to start asking the staff all these questions, and you can imagine how they're feeling because they're not prepared and all that. They're already nervous. So the board never wants to put the staff in that position. So I'm asking you to drill down and ask what you want. And the superintendent will be able to say, you know what, that is a great ask, but we don't even collect that data. And then collectively the board needs to talk, not with the superintendent, you need to talk, is this something we need to invest in? Because it probably costs some money to do it, so that's what you have to talk about. So who else wants to share what your thoughts are? Kind of share that.
I can go.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I did this right, but I don't know. It's hard for me to start on a rant. But I think we need to create situations, environments, and create systems and opportunities to progressively and sequentially set up students for successes. And I think we need to insist on rigor and challenging our students and make awards actually meaningful. I think we need to gear systems toward excellence, true excellence, at the heart of everything that is expected. Emphasize the word expected. And I think we need to demand excellence from admin, staff, students, and teachers and students. And this comes out of my first 6-7 years of teaching in the district. I got so tired of hearing that not much was expected of our students. And that was true from within Hayward, and it was true from without. And I just got so tired of hearing it, because the more I worked with them, the more I realized that they can do anything. So.
And so I'm going to pose the same question to you. How would you know that this is that? What would you say to your superintendent to ensure that if we're focusing on what student well-being is, which we should, is this
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, is it?
Students, they appreciate it when they've met benchmarks that have been demanding, and then they feel, then they know they've been successful. Sometimes I feel like we give too many awards for this, that, the other thing, you know, which really doesn't have anything to do with excellence.
So would you say if someone walked in a classroom, would you be able to see rigor happen?
I think so.
You're a teacher. You would.
I think I recognize it.
Okay, I was thinking like a lay person walking there. So you would recognize it.
I think I would.
And is there expectations in this district that rigor is happening in the classroom?
Well, we say it is.
How do you know if it isn't? How do you know that it's not?
Visit a classroom now and then, I guess.
And Superintendent, would you be able to say that it's happening?
Test scores, of course.
The rigorous instruction is
Pardon?
happening.
Rigorous, yeah. All these things, again, if the board is thinking well-being, these things need to happen. It's just to kind of get you to thinking.
Yeah.
And again, it helps give your superintendent some directions and, well, maybe I'm gonna start looking at this. Because the board is saying, you guys are the leaders at the top. This is what you want to start seeing in presentations, so that when they are getting awards, you're like, oh, then they met all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's what student well-being means to Kim. Okay. Sarah or Chen, yours is next. Share yours.
What does it look like? I think putting the whole student, mind, body, and soul first. Creating safe learning environments, hiring people who love our students, fully engaging our students in their learning journey, empowering student voice, transparency and accountability and funding, collaborative community building that centers our students, ensuring every student can read, write, do math, and express themselves creatively. Board and superintendent workshops / meetings where we do temperature checks on the district-wide student well-being. Creating opportunities for our students to grow and build confidence so that they thrive after they graduate.
And what would that look like if you walk in the schools? How do you know if this is the focus? What would you see?
Well, with walking into a classroom, you can tell if students want to be there or if they don't. So as far if the teacher is putting the whole student, mind, body, and soul, then you have fully engaged children who, you know, feel comfortable in their classroom, who feel seen and heard in their classroom. And I've been in classrooms where that's happening, and I've been in classrooms where there's students who have been kicked out and they're on the outside by themselves. So it's not happening. And in those classrooms, I would consider that not a safe learning environment. If not all children are included and are safe. I think a way that we can ensure that happens is like by doing equity walks, having equity walk teams, and then having that reported back to the board and having discussions if there's any room for like, what's it called? Like how do we further support a classroom environment if there is anything going on, like how do we support the teacher and making sure that they have what they need to fully be there to support their students. And then I think part of fully engaging our students in their learning journey is also empowering their voice, so they are a part of creating that journey. How do they, you know, knowing how students will tell you how they learn, or they'll show you, and maybe not being as rigid in the way that we like teach our students and stuff like that. And then with the transparency and accountability and funding, I feel like that sits on the governance team. Having transparency with the community that we serve, and making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable, holding, you know, the staff, district, everybody accountable that we have the funding. When we do things like go after measures, how are we spending? Like, how are we spending, you know, on the last one on and having a continued like report outs on how it's going, kind of like maybe in quarterly or check-ins.
And you're right, that is the board, because that's called, and that's the monitoring.
Yeah.
After you've made those decisions, now how do you know it's working? Well, at some point, you should be asking the question after 3 months or 6 months or a year. How did that work? Do we need to change it? Do you need additional support? But if the board never asks for it, it's not that the staff is not doing the work, but it's the board's responsibility to pose the question, how's it working?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And then I think we do like somewhat of a good job with the collaborating and community building that centers on students. But one of the things that we don't do is we don't further, like, we tend to have the same parents who are going to show up whether we hold these things or like create the spaces or not. They're parents who will always show up for their kids and other children. So what else can we do to engage parents and community that maybe don't feel welcome in those spaces and are quieter in board meetings or things like that? How can we create a space where we're also collaborating with the quieter parent or community member? Because they also have stuff that can contribute. And then, yeah, ensuring every student can read, write, do math, and express themselves creatively. I think we have a lot of initiatives. We're doing the best that we can with the money that we have. But it is something that I do feel like as a district we have been failing for years in HUSD. And maybe that means we need to do something a little bit more creative, especially like with literacy and math, on engaging our students and looking outside of the box.
And this would be a way for it. Remind me, do you guys have study sessions?
No.
Or work group? Okay. I think I mentioned that to you guys before.
Yeah.
That you can just, even with any of these, whatever you guys have mentioned so far, can be a study session topic where you can drill down. So Chen will have a staff that's their area of expertise, and you sit there, roll up your sleeves, and drill down into what you need, what you expect, what do we have, if you only have this to work with, what's the best we can do? If you know that there's no extra money coming to assist you, what you have, because we know your job, regardless if you have enough money or not, you still have to educate kids, regardless, the best way you can. So you put the right minds together to figure out the best way to do it, and study session is the best way to do it, to really hone in on where an issue is. And that, you can drop any of these topics that you guys have shared, but you have to identify which one do we want to do a study session.
And I want to correct that. I advocated really hard, and the staff worked really hard, and the special education work session did happen in October or November of last fall.
So you guys did a study
on special education.
Okay. And then you just did it, and then what happened afterwards?
We didn't finish it, I would say.
Because it's not too late, but whenever you have a study session, you're walking out, you have to do the work. And that would mean that you've given the superintendent and staff some directions to, you go back and do this, and maybe if it's 3 months later, bring this back. And that means the board's going to continue to touch it. But you don't have a study session and just get all this information, don't do anything with it. And so maybe that could be, and just start with one topic, just revisit that, especially with Chen being in this position. And special ed seems to be the topic for every district. So that's probably a good place to start. And the first thing you do, pull policies, because you don't ask to do something that violates your policy. Know what the state law requires, because you can't, board policy does not override the state's law. So if you have all of that, and the staff they're probably looking at that more than board members are, your policy, because they know how they're supposed to work within that. But that could be something, even if you had a study session every other month, not making it where you guys have to do so much work. It is important though to drill down, because there's no way that you can have these conversations at your board meeting, because again, your board meetings are for action. Study sessions get something there that can be pushed to the agenda to take action.
Would it be one topic study session that you revisit like every 2 to 3 months, or would it be like multiple topics?
You can have multiple topics. I would, like special ed is such a big area. Sometimes that, usually if it's special ed, that's on the one topic at that meeting. And yes, you do revisit it because again, you are giving the superintendent and staff directions to go do more work. And whatever time frame they have, you don't expect it in 2 weeks or anything. If they say, give us 3 months and we're gonna have something to report back. Whatever she's reporting back is going to cause the board to say, yeah, this is what we need. Now we're giving you a directive to do X, Y, Z. But it may take a whole year before you get to a directive. And the directive is not negative. People are afraid of that word. Superintendents need direction from the board. If not, they are going to do what they feel is best. But if it's not aligned with what the board wants, then that's where some conflict could be. So absolutely. So Chin, please share.
Sure. So, you guys are making fun
You're
of
a real
me.
brat. You draw it, Chin?
Yes. Yes. I was trying to answer the question of like the role leadership team, what's the action things look like in the well-being of students. So we've done lots of student surveys. I mean, I think we continue to talk about student surveys in our community, but they tell us the same thing every time, right? For them to feel that they're taking well care of schools and that the well-being is being considered, they tell us the same thing. They need to feel safe, they need to feel included, they care about having caring adults who cares about their future, they want to seek relevant, they want to see the relevance in their education in terms of helping them plan for their future. They want rigorous academics, they want to be considered, like they want us to consider the whole spectrum of what they need in terms of like social and emotional health and so on and so forth. And then they want relevant programming. So they want programming that's not just the same program that we roll year to year, but things that are relevant to them and the things that they care about. I tried to do a phone. It wasn't. I almost did the old-fashioned phone. Then I started laughing. I realized they're square now.
Right.
So like, based on their voices, the in my mind, the leadership teams, in terms of the governance team, is really to create that vision, right?
Yes.
And in terms of creating a vision and direction, to your point, Deborah, like what's important to us as a collective team? Because everything's important. I mean, you can kind of go down and take each one of those topics and go down like on a 3-day retreat with that, right? And figure it out. But really, it's about like how do we set vision on a larger level in terms of what we want to do. Then I see the building blocks of like how we create those conditions for our kids are the responsibility of myself and the leadership team within the district, that's staff, in terms of looking at how do we take that and look at how do we do responsive programming, how do we allocate our resources, how do we look at how we forward plan so it's not like we're reacting to things all the time. And then we start to look at targeted strategies, because I think one of the things that we do in Hayward is that we've had lots of transitions. So with every transition, someone brings in a really cool thing, right? And that cool thing gets carried on for the next 20 years. And then we start to worry about, like, we don't have money to do 20 things.
Right.
So not that things are bad, but like what's really impactful, and let's agree on like targeted strategies so that we're not trying to do 20 things well. We do, a handful of things really well, and then we move on and do another handful of things really well. But I feel like those are the things that are going to be important for us to talk about if we want to talk about student well-being, is how do we start to, there's going to be a sense of loss, right? How do you give up some things to make sure that you're intentional about things? But I couldn't quite capture all that in that.
No,
and words, so there you go, picture.
No, and that's good. And everything that everyone that contributes to what the student well-being is, how would you see this showing up at your board meeting? Because this is talking about kids, the business we're in, and it's talking about what's happening. You mentioned too that you did a student survey. Whenever you do surveys, okay, you get all the information, what are you going to do with it? That's why a lot of people don't like to do surveys, because nothing comes out of it. So especially if you do a student survey, they're trying to tell you, because we haven't been kids in a long time, at least I'll speak for myself in the classroom, but if they're telling you what they need to be successful, to feel safe, whatever it is, this team needs to decide what will that look like. How are we, it could be just something at the beginning of the meeting, you address something that's about student well-being. That's centering. And I think that would help this team if you center why you're here. Why do you do this work? And it could be a statement, whatever, either what the superintendent or the board chair says. centering is so important, so that we all have lives outside of coming to a board meeting, and you need that moment. Some board members take a pause, and it's not just the other type of pause where something bad has happened. It's a centering. So I'm just thinking of some different things that could help, where if you think about this, and when I write it all up for you, you will have that in front of you to keep you focused. And I believe everything you put here can fall into those 3 priority areas. You're talking about safe environment, the learning outcomes, all that falls in the work plan that your superintendent put together. That's what you should be talking about the board meetings. And that's what I'm waiting to see show up on the agenda. I know it's been very difficult with the budget and all of that, but you're gonna have to do it again. So you still wanna fill in, you want this to be prominent, because you know the budget is gonna be. Don't let the budget, and then we have little one-liners or very 5-minute conversations about student success, student well-being. So this is just giving you an idea to help you center again on why you're doing this work, and remembering this when the times get tough. Reflect back on what you said this is, and it would be great that students can see that they are actually focusing on something. You think about portrait of a student, what would that look like if you had some kids do some artwork? What will it look like? If they were able to look at all of this, what would they draw? I'm sure they would look like this, Chen. They would use this. It would be something to say who they are. And if this is what they could present it to you, they would say, the Board of Education, this is what we want you to focus on. This is who we are, right? And so thank you for going through that process again.
I didn't get to share.
Oh, you know what? Where's yours?
Over here. That's
Thank
okay.
you very much. I missed you. Stand back up.
Okay. You don't have to.
I do.
So I was thinking about, equity is always at the frame of how I'm looking at the questions related to students. And I think about, for me, every child, the adults in the room are the leaders. And that's every adult in the entire district. Leadership is about modeling what you expect. So if we expect well-being, excellence, whatever from our students, adults have to be modeling that. And I think that one of the things that concerns me the most about the district is that it's become incredibly normalized for the adults in spaces to speak with hostility to one another, to not be generous with one another. We hear accountability all over, but equity is about extending toward what people need to succeed and thrive and be well. And so I think that we have adults constantly not modeling what that is. And so how do we expect our students to learn it when we aren't even holding ourselves to a higher standard of what it is to model integrity, what it is to model accountability for ourselves and our actions, what it is to model all the things that I wrote there: compassion, professionalism, patience, kindness, understanding. I wrote more on here, being educated, having trust, having well-resourced adults, right? So I think that when we're looking at the leadership component, there's a lot of work for adults to do, to be, you can't teach what you yourself don't have. And so how do we expect our adults to model what well-being looks like when they aren't even holding themselves to that standard or don't know how to hold themselves to that standard? So it's very concerning to me, some of the modes of communication that have become not just acceptable, but the norm in the district. Yeah.
I like that.
When you say, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
When you say the adults, you're not just talking about HUSD employees or staff. You're also talking about
Well, of course, you see
the
our
community
own.
and the audience.
Well, you can see it all the way up to the
Right.
top, but I hear the way Trump speaks, and it doesn't sound that different from what I hear adults in our district saying or speaking to one another. So, no, that's what I'm saying. When you think of leadership from the top down, and then you think about that all the way to our children.
Children,
And I don't know, like for me, I never assume if a student is absent, I don't say, why were you not here today? I write to them and I say, I hope you're okay. We missed you in class today. Let me know how you're doing. What can I do? Do you need more time? Etc. Rather than making an assumption about like ill intent. So yes, like kind of what Peter was saying. You talked about SEL, Chin, you're talking about these things as well, like similar to what I was getting at, but like MTSS is another major structure in our district for addressing equity and yes, foster students, but I'm thinking about all of our students, including the ones who need a push toward excellence, including the ones that we know are overrepresented in our suspension and expulsions, like all the different, categories of needing, like our student defined equity as like what does each student need in each moment. And if you don't have adults capable of delivering that, like they're never going to do well.
Right, right. And when, the board has to model this as well.
Yes.
And so it's hard for staff to do it if they're looking up to the board. So the board's responsibility is to create the culture of what you want. So what you articulate here is what should be modeled.
Yeah.
So no one is off the, when you said all adults, that was inclusive of the team as well.
Every adult in
Everyone who engages or has some type of impact on children, you have to model it. And this is again where you have to be intentional about how you navigate, how you have conversations, and spirited conversations can still be had in a respectable way. You have different perspectives, but always think, how do we get to a yes if that's where we need to be for the children? And so yes, it needs to be modeled, but yes, I had read that and it was just in my head. I forgot that shit. And so, not everyone did speak, right? Stay thinking about student well-being. Does this help you center on why you're doing this work? And how impactful it would be if this team talked about this at least once a month. Are we doing that? And then you look to Chin and say, are you making sure it happens in the class, in the buildings? Principals and teachers and the children are reaping the benefit. And what does that look like? Yes, there's a lot of things that your superintendent has to still figure out with staff, capacity. Some people are challenged in different areas, but I believe if ever no one comes to work saying, I want to harm children, I would hope. That's where I would start. But if actions show differently, then Chin would have to deal with them at that level. But what do you need to do? How do you empower? And what kind of instructions would you give your superintendent to empower people who are challenged in these areas that impact students every day? Because we don't want kids to be in front of adults who are causing harm. It's hard for the board to tell, but the superintendent has an idea based upon her staff reporting up to her. And you guys potentially could hear it from the community, because they're going to keep you informed too. Go ahead, Ken.
All of it sounds really, really good, but I think we also need to discuss this issue that the superintendent is one person. And there is the idea of now she's going to be taking over, I assume everybody.
Please,
No, I
careful,
don't.
Ken.
Don't say something.
Okay.
Not supposed to.
Okay, but she's doing
a lot of work.
a lot. And
Yeah, she's doing a lot of work.
so a lot of it is focused on picking up the pieces of cleaning up our messes,
And when I refer to Chin, it is her whole staff, but she's the only one here. And so I know, and that's a good thing. I think that superintendents have the opportunity to delegate, and I hope that you do that. That you know that this isn't all you doing the heavy lifting, right? So when I refer to just Chin, it's you and your staff, okay?
I do want to do a time check, 'cause I think we have a break right now.
We'll do it, yeah. You want to take a break right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Begin.
Okay.
I do need to.
I was getting ready to. Were you finished, or is it okay if you're kind of finished?
I guess I
Yes,
am.
sir. Okay.
I'm gonna go grab a couple waters. Would anyone like water?
Oh,
Yes,
I
please.
would, thank you.
Okay, can I just count everyone?
Where are you going?
7-Eleven.
Can you get me a sparkling water?
You got it?
Thank you.
Would you like water, baby?
Yes, but I would like. Essential.
Can I just get the largest water they got? Like,
Yeah, big old
I have to have some electrolytes in it. I'm sorry. Go back to the water, fine.
I'll take them.
Okay.
Ken, would you like water?
I would.
Okay.
Thank you.
How about you, sir?
Some other choices.
Oh,
Water.
You're saving your receipts, Kelly.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
it feels like a fun drink then.
Okay, now, something about the sparkles, I just can't do the sparkles. Okay.
Are we live?
You have to take
We're back.
We're back.
We are back.
Okay. All right, we're gonna continue our discussion. We went through the well-being. What I want to have a night to kind of talk about just leadership. And again, Jen, this is your first time engaging in this type of retreat with your board. And so, when we think about leadership, usually they think about administrative leadership. The governing team, there are different levels of what the governing team looks like, leadership, and the administrative team and leadership. So what I want you to do is just kind of be reflective, because I'm always going to ask you, we talk a lot about what things are, but when you pose the question, what does it look, what does that look like in practice? So when we talk about leadership at the governance level, what does that look like? So when we think about this first round, it's called the leadership mindset. And this goes to, April, what you were mentioning about expectations of what adults should be modeling too. So how does leadership at the board level look different from leadership within a school or department? So just think about that. What is the difference with the board? And this will help the board understand what your role is in leadership compared to the superintendent and her staff. So what does that look like? Okay. Doing this. What does it mean to lead through vision and policy instead of leading through management? Okay? And then what mindset helps us stay student-centered in our decision making? So how does this board develop a leadership mindset focus on these questions? Could you tell us, what does either one of those questions, if you want to just kind of talk about, how does it differ from the board level and within the school or a department? If you had to articulate that to, what if a cabinet person engaged you with some conversation, how would you explain the difference between governance leadership and then what they do? That's just an example of that first question. So how would you answer any of those questions? We're just going to have some conversations about that right now.
Well, I think the first one, we're the only body that sits on a dais that people can see maybe twice a month. And the other, the leadership within a school or department is every day on the job.
Okay.
I think a lot of it comes to the granularity and how direct the interactions are. From department to school, there's a lot more day-to-day.
That's right,
Yeah, with the individuals, with the students, with the work with staff. As you get further and further apart, you rely now on the leaders of those leaders to then submit reports, to obtain data, information from them, and then you make your decisions based on that. We can make our school site visits, but that's going to be sporadic. So it becomes a lot more relying on making sure that the leaders at the department and school levels are people that you can trust with the data providing for you, so you can make decisions based on that data. I think that's one of the big separators.
Go ahead, Hans.
I think what's really unique about school boards especially is that how we get here, we're elected by folks in the community, and the experience, there really isn't minimum qualifications to be on a school board. And you want folks with different perspectives, I believe, to be part of a board. But you also, in my opinion, there's certain key voices that have to be on a school board. We want parents. We want folks with an educational background. As I reflect on folks that are going to come off the board, that makes me terrified, because those are two folks on our board that have teaching experience that aren't going to be here, and that's a voice that's void, that's missing. And so I think that's the difference versus at a school site, they automatically have educational experience. They've often dedicated their entire life to working with kids.
And until the law is changed, it is minimum requirements, basically 18 years of age. popular enough to get elected, live in your community. And you can have a GED to a PhD, and everybody in the middle, usually being the boss of a person with an educational degree, you know, PhD. And that's why it's important.
You don't need a GED either, do you?
Huh?
Yeah, you don't even
No
need it. You
education.
don't even need education.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. That's a California thing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Never surprised.
It's California. I thought you had to at least have that.
No, but no education.
It kind of leads into 1 and 2, but like to Austin's point, I expect that like our principals and all of the staff have some professional expertise because this is their day job. Like this is how they're earning their living. They've received training on it. For many of them, you know, lots of schooling, and they are the experts. For the board, we are not the expert. We are not content experts. Like even for Ken and me having some content expertise, like there's a big learning curve of what you do when you're on the board versus what you do when you're in the classroom. And so I think it's really important to, like, we are here as like asking questions, trusting like that there's a process, and if there's not, we manage it. We work with the superintendent. I think in terms of the leading through vision and policy, like our job is to help inspire Chin to do what we think is all of us the right thing given board direction, and figuring out like in our roles how that's done. But really we are not the expert, and so we have no business in management. We have no business in a lot of the things that I think the board gets in the weeds about, and when really we're not. Like Chin is the only educational expert at this table who's qualified to do those things. So for me, those two kind of bleed into each other.
Absolutely. And I know it's always tempting to want to go below that governance line and do the how. I think to get the how across to the superintendent is when the board collectively talks about what's important, because you have 5 people. If you prioritize what's going to be the top one that you can agree that that's the direction you want the superintendent to go to do, but not tell her how to do it. Once she shares with you what her team comes up with, then that's when the board starts engaging, and you will be able to say, did you consider, not, we want you to go back. And I'm telling you now from what I hear at your board meetings, can you have staff go back and do X, Y, Z? And I kind of wait to see if other board members are going to, this is where it's the will of the board. There should be some type of pulse check to see, is this something that all of us need to hear? Because remember what I said before, when you're asking for staff to do something, it needs to be, and I always say, why do you need it? Is it going to help you make a decision? So that's something I want you to kind of think about when you want something. Is it collectively needed by the team? Or is it just something I want to know more about?
Can I just, and like something in our defense, if we have led into management stuff, something I've told Chin is like, if we can't trust the people under her implementing, it's really hard for us to not want to get in there in the weeds, because we all care a lot about things going well here. So like it's been, I feel like it's been a hard line to toe at times when we aren't totally confident in the people like underneath Chin that they're like executing the will of the board and doing what they need to do in their quote professional quote expert roles. So I feel like the board has often been in a really tough spot.
We bite our tongues a lot.
Yeah, and I'm glad, in your defense, you're right. When this team specifically, you have gone, just say what has the last 3 years looked like for you. Talking about change.
Yeah.
And usually that is when any board is going to say, we know it needs to get done, so guess what? We're going to have to be the ones. So that is common. Now you have a superintendent who's stable in this position. Now the board needs to kind of pull back, but you still share your expectations. But I totally understand that. And when I see it happening and when board members go below that line, I understand the why. It's just that you're trying to get to a place where you can kind of start trusting the process. Yeah. But it takes time to build that up. So absolutely. Ken, did you want to answer any of this? Did you share? Or anybody else?
I kind of said, I did already.
You did?
I talked about number 1.
Number 1, okay. What are your thoughts, Sarah, when you're thinking about leadership mindset?
So I think like the board has an overall leadership like role and vision, and I feel like it needs to find a way to be like both inspiring and collaborative in the work, that we're inspiring our superintendent, we're inspiring our community, you know, staff and each other. And I think if we're thinking about this board, I think one of the ways that can be done, because one thing we do agree on, like when we were doing the superintendent plan, is the work that we're passionate about. And so like translating that into like our leadership, having work groups where everyone's able to express what they want to see done, what they think is important, what they've heard from the community, and you know how we can better support Chin and her staff and bringing it to surface. I think that will help us model, you know, leadership for the rest of the district when we are in our board meetings, because we won't have the anxiety of we're going to say the things, but we're not 100% sure they'll understand or that it is going to get done. And we keep having people come to us and tell us that it's not happening. We keep having people come to us personally or at board meetings. So I think it shows the community leadership when we're putting in the extra effort. It gives Chin more to like work with and understanding, so she's not individually trying to piece together from our one-on-ones what the board kind of wants. She'll have like a deeper understanding, so she can then guide her team, and then we would quickly, like not quickly, but we would see it trickle through out the district. And so I think by us doing the work, you know, that within itself would show like an overall leadership. And it might even inspire, you know, some of our site leaders throughout the district to see the way that we work and do deeper dives and do all of these different things, that we're taking it seriously, because I think a lot of the time they don't take us seriously as leaders or as a governing body. And so by showing them, you know, not only are we reassuring, you know, ourselves that everyone is here for these reasons and we're working hard together to make sure we all reach that finish line, but we're modeling it throughout the district, and they can actually take that template and put it in at their site and be like, all right, y'all, like, we don't all have to like each other, but we are all here for kids, so let's sit down and let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, although, you know, we started out really rough and we needed to get some things out, at the end of the day, this team has to model what you expect of others. There's no way you can expect staff to act accordingly, and what you articulated again, Sarah, what you would expect. April, what you would expect to see adults doing, absolutely. But it's hard when the adults, community, people in the audience, don't see it modeled. And then even think about none of the adults don't you know that kids are watching this too? And they're like, they're the ones making decisions for us. So there's some work that needs to be done where you want to be able to say, at least we're modeling it. It's tough. We can show you that it can be done because our focus is going to be student-centered. This is the work we volunteered to do, and we took that oath, and you take your oath seriously. It's not about focusing on what the adults want, even though we need the adults, they're very important, period. We're in the business of educating kids. So the board should not just be focused just on what certain groups want. You bring the perspective to the table. Every one of you did bring different perspectives of who you're engaged with in the community. That piece is very important. But no one board member stands on the stoop that says we're only focused on what this group says or what these adults, what other entity is out there. You just bring a perspective. I always want to share with community people what you're sharing and you're passionate about is one piece of that puzzle. And you guys have the pieces, the rest of the pieces that they don't. So it's important what they feel, and you're bringing that one piece to help make the picture. But it just, I always want to just caution board members to not let any one group or some of our relatives or friends or whatever steer us to think that this is the only way you should go when you have 5 other people who have different perspectives and we have more information. So those are things that you have to model. People want to see you guys doing that. Not saying, oh, you're only convinced about, you're one side, you're only thinking about this. That's what they want to see. When everything I ask you, what does it look like? So if you say you want to have a leadership mindset, I need to be able to see it. Your policy makers, do I ever hear you refer to your policies? How often do you talk about, we have to make sure this is aligned with our policy or something?
Every meeting I read the script, there's a reference to policy.
You read the script, but going through the meeting.
Oh, in the meeting?
Yeah, because I know you read the script.
Mhm.
But again, this is something you're remembering what your role is, vision, setting the direction, policy. Even though sometimes people think policy is so boring and all that, but if you don't set the parameters, the guidelines, then the district will be operating in just all different directions. So again, that's a leadership mindset, to remember what you said you were going to do, collectively, not individually. So who else, you got a chance, everybody, finish, and then Jen, I want to hear you.
I was just gonna say, I think as a board, maybe I'm being naive, would it be the first time? But, I think the way the public perceives us, in general, I mean, they don't see our conversations like what we've had tonight, or in closed session, or anything behind the scenes. I think we put, I don't wanna say a united front necessarily, but we put, I mean, I've been in the district a long time, and let me tell you about boards of the past.
Yeah,
I
want to do
Bring
this.
the popcorn.
She's telling me to do this to you.
I think you're Evian.
What? What?
I don't think that's the case, because I think when you look at the last large board decision we had was a 3-2 vote on our fiscal solvency. That's not a united front at all.
That's
I
not-
think the
No,
community,
I-
I
that's
think the
what-
community is well aware.
But I'm talking about our behavior that we have on the board with each other, our interaction with each other, even if we disagree, is not crazy, because I've been in this district when it has been crazy.
Doesn't make it any better at all. Just because it was really bad doesn't make this any better.
Go ahead, Austin.
I keep hearing reference to 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, and I was in the 2, I'm assuming, for the vote that we're all talking about, and the feedback I hear is not that we sometimes don't all vote the same way. It's how we talk to each other.
That's what I'm saying.
And that dies. That's the trouble that I hear.
That we need to improve on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as a person who watches board meetings for a living, absolutely, I'm looking at you guys. Body language means a lot. You may not realize, I don't know, any of you guys go back and look at your board meetings?
Oh, yes.
And you probably wonder, ooh.
Well, the other part is, it's not even just how we talk to each other sometimes. I think it's one of the dynamics that we have to check ourselves on as the ultimate leaders, is how we speak to staff. Because at the end of the day, they have to sit there.
And to each other.
Yeah, well, and to each other, but also how do we speak to staff? Because that's the end of the day, they have to sit there and just listen, and their job's on the line. You know, there's some power dynamic there that I think we need to, as a board, really reflect on ourselves. As like, yeah, we have kind of the freedom to say whatever we want right now, but is that really the right thing to do right now?
And in some ways, to kind of assist you in that, is to think about, I think I shared this with Jen, that perhaps, and this is what a lot of boards do, board members, if a staff person is presenting, board members direct the question to the superintendent. Because the superintendent is the buffer between the board and her staff. Board members don't talk directly to, they ask the superintendent. Because the superintendent can give you an explanation, and if there's more information, she can say, talk to your staff. You can say to your staff, can you just tell them about X? Staff members really don't know what you guys want as much as your superintendent does.
Not a bad idea.
I watched that. That's a team.
So the questions part, like, at the end, questions, then deliberation or whatever. The questions that we're asking, I mean, because a lot of times the speaker, whoever it is, the staff person will say, do you have any questions? And we see the little thing on the slide presentation, questions. We address those questions to Chin?
And it's just a matter of taking, I would have my staff not even have to answer any questions. When the presentation is over, they either can stand there and then Chin, you can ask the board any questions that you would answer. That's just something you can try, not saying that you have to do it, but I do watch a lot of boards who actually do that and it works well.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, that is an interesting concept. I've heard staff people would be scared to present to us
Yeah.
because of that.
Because of the questioning, that's why I
No,
say.
because of the way they're being spoken to.
Exactly.
Through the
Humiliated at
questioning, that's
times.
why
Yeah.
I'm saying a suggestion would be that to deal with that, you guys don't ask questions of the staff.
We even had feedback from a third party go, I was being subjected to questions I didn't think I needed to be like, spoken to that way.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like,
Because again, they're already nervous. You know, Jen knows you guys. Let your superintendent be the one. You filter and just say, you know, after the end of the presentation, just ask your superintendent any question. And then you think about the questions that you're asking. Did you provide those questions before? I always go back to that. You have a window of opportunity. Do you see the presentation? I guess I better ask.
yes,
You do.
we have to.
Okay, you see it before the meeting.
It's published.
At that time, if you have any questions, do you use that time in between to pose questions so that they are ready for you? If it's not in the presentation, that they can make sure it is. I'm just asking you guys to do
But
that.
what if you have a question about one of the slides, for example? You know, like on slide 7, you said da-da-da-da-da, I just need a little further more explanation. We direct that to her?
I think that you give her the freedom to then delegate that.
What do you feel? Because we talked about it, you share, what are your thoughts about this?
I'll answer this question and I'll incorporate that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, for me, board members are different from really myself and our staff, because I feel like, it sounds completely loony, but it's like you're kind of carrier of visions and dreams, right? People voted for you because they believe in something that you're going to bring into the space that helps them and represents them and supports them, right? So they kind of, it's a lot of pressure in terms of how you manage that and how it manifests itself at the dais, right? For staff, it's really taking, like, and it's hard because we don't do enough talking in terms of alignment. I talk to all of you, and I try really hard to put all of your visions into like one thing, right? Like that picture I showed. Like literally that's what I'm doing in my head, right? Like there's 5 of you telling me what you want. I try to figure out a picture that fits, and then I in turn provide staff the direction to do that. And staff goes around and their main thing is how do we make that happen, right? And they apply their expertise and their experiences, and they try to create a roadmap of how it happens, right? Where I think, and I'll speak candidly, right, where I think that sometimes it's difficult is that roadmap doesn't look like your roadmap, right? And this is where the conflict starts to happen a little bit at the dais, where it doesn't match, right? And I have to reflect at times going, where could I have done better? Because my job is to make sure they're successful, right? So if we're gonna ask, I don't mind answering questions, but to your point, Ken, if you have a very specific question about slide number 14 and how maybe someone got that data, I sometimes don't have a choice to turn it over to staff because I didn't do that work.
Yeah.
But really, if we all come from a place where we understand that people are trying to, like, start with the understanding that people are trying to do their best in terms of mind reading all of us to do a really good job. And if they're off the mark, then we help them be on mark, right? And so it's this always supportive lens that we're trying to give. I mean, people, I think, work really hard to do their best, but people do their best when the expectations are clear and the guidelines are clear for them, right? So if they're feeling their way through it, they're fearful sometimes to come to the podium because they're going to mind read 5 people and me at the same time in terms of how they answer the questions and how they respond. And so I think what the difference is really, like, you guys are carrying the vision of the community into the space, and then we create that vision and figure out how we can be on the same page, because the closer that I can get to what that vision looks like, the closer the work can be done the way we all want it, right? And it's where there's discrepancy in terms of the two, but there's frustration at the board meetings because you're going, that's so not the presentation I wanted to see, right? And then I have to sit there and evaluate, did I give enough guidance for that to be done well enough that it meets the expectation of 5 people? And if it's not, in real time, we're adjusting course, right? And it's okay if it comes back, and it's okay if we adjust course. And it's okay for us to have the hard conversations to do that. But I think if we all commit to doing it with the supportive lens, because I don't think anyone wants to come to the mic and miss the mark, right? Like, that's what we recorded, right? Forever in a day, it's recorded, and whether they wanna stay here, whether they wanna move on to their careers, that's a tape that gets played back.
Yeah.
Right, and so it's like, so if we're, if the mark is missed enough, then it's my responsibility to figure out how can we align it, however I need to talk about that, right? But we talk about being restorative district, and part of that is the work that we need to do together to figure out how to do that well. Because I think there is still a disconnect, and I can own it, we can own it, and then the question is, how do we move from like the collective will of the community, narrow it down to like things that are reasonable to do, and then how do we create the roadmap that we can all agree on is the right roadmap for all of us, so that we don't consistently miss the mark. I don't mind the strategy of like going to your superintendent first. I think I started doing some of that with our staff, right? So like you'll see me saying, Ms. Nichols, I'll nod at Amy or nod at folks to chime in. Because there are things that, if you have to make budget questions, I'm going to turn to Amy probably.
And I've watched you do that, and so it's Ken, if it's just something on July 4, say it was about a data piece, Jen can say, you're talking to your staff. Remember when we pulled this data based upon, you're giving some background context of it, and then that might answer your question, and then you bounce it back to your staff, and then they're like, oh, that's what the board. Because remember, staff is not in the head of board members of what you need. That's why I think you can just try it, directing it to Chen, and because she knows her staff, and be able to balance that.
I want to say, to be fair, the majority of the staff that we has been there for decades, and yes, we have had changing superintendents. I think this board particularly is very clear in like giving directions and answering or asking questions for what they need, and at times, not so much now, because I feel like the dynamics of staff has changed, executive staff have changed, but like it was almost like the board was being ignored, or wasn't, like what we were asking wasn't important. We were never getting information back. We would go back and say like, I've been asking for this one thing for a year or 2 years, or I'm in my second term, I haven't gotten this thing that I asked for in my first term. And so it's been a history of really, I guess, not having a superintendent who holds the staff accountable. But I know now, especially with the work group session that we did, there's an evaluation system now. There hadn't been one for staff. Like they hadn't been evaluated in over 6 years or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I don't know. But like there was no accountability for staff to do the work. So it was a hugely frustrating thing to be a board member and not get the information that you would request over and over again. So I think like, once we create this new culture, there's clear expectations from the superintendent, and there's an evaluation, system and accountability, the board won't be so frustrated with like, because we'll have what we need.
Instead of giving you what you want.
Give us what we need to make the decisions we need to make in the time that we're supposed to make those decisions. Because otherwise, that's where you get like, I can't make this decision because I don't have the information that I need to make this decision.
And this is where, when you determine, when the board says they want certain presentations, is the board being very clear to Chen of what you expect to get out of that presentation. And I think I can see you guys getting better at it, but when you don't share exactly what you want, then their staff is going to give you what they think you need, which sometimes is way too much information. Sometimes it's information that is inviting you into the weeds. That's not the intent, but they're inviting you into it, so obviously you're going to start addressing what you see on the screen. So I think it would be helpful if the staff, if the board is very clear on what information you need to make a decision. And is it safe to assume, Chen, that not that adding more work for you do, but when your staff is presenting, they're getting their PowerPoint ready, do you review it to make sure that it is on mark with what the board, because there's some data, folks, there's some history, there are things that board members are going to want to see. Do you kind of look it over to make sure that they they've hit those marks?
I do look it over, but I will say this has been a learning curve year for me.
Okay.
Because as the different topics come up, then there's some, and it's true that I've been in every single board meeting. It's not true that I always understood like what the board was looking for, because some of those conversations happened in live, some of them happen behind the scenes, right? So when they're building PowerPoints, I try to remember things, but I don't think I have a complete picture. I actually have a better complete picture because we went through a round. So I've heard the different feedback from different board members on some key things we're working on. So I think going forward, I think in reviewing it, I have a better sense of like what I should be looking for. But I will say this was a learning year for me, and that.
And I forget, we have to remember that. How long you been superintendent? I just get it. In all fairness, you're right, so thank you. Thank you for putting that into space, because all the changes that have been going on.
Yeah.
It's a year next month.
This month.
Thank you for sharing that as a reminder. Every now and then we have to be reminded of that. So yeah. Did everyone have a chance to comment on the mindset?
Yeah.
Let's look at this one. Behaviors that build trust and accountability. See, you guys have already kind of mentioned some things before. What does accountability look like between the board and the superintendent? How do we maintain transparency both with one another and the community? You guys mentioned about transparency. How do we respectfully hold each other to our commitments and roles? So if I would say, how do I know you're doing? What does that look like when we're focusing on behaviors that build trust? Anybody want to tackle either one of those questions? The accountability piece, the transparency, or being respectful to holding each other to our commitments and roles? What would you like to share?
I think accountability for the board and the superintendent obviously is through evaluation. I think that's one where accountability can be held. I think the board amongst each other, one another, or maintaining transparency in the community. That goes with our communications and our relationships with the people of the community, right? The people that got us to the seats that we're in, the communities that we represent. How do we respectfully hold each other to our commitments and roles? That's a relationship thing. And I mean, I'll clear right now, I was reflecting earlier on the little break, and I'm sorry I came at you a little hard, Austin, about that. And I think what Deborah said, saying, did you have the best intentions, or thinking about, let's just assume that Austin just forgot. And I guess I did think of that avenue right away. And I will assume that you forgot. And I want to say I'm sorry, and I apologize. And I didn't want to set that tone today. And I think that's the way we can be accountable. Is when I don't like the reflection of that leadership, and I don't want that to be the tone that we set. I do want to call it out and not do that. That's what I'm sorry.
So tell me what does this board think about when we say maintain? How do we maintain transparency? Because I know you guys are very connected with your community, but what does do you all agree on what transparency looks like? What transparency? What does that mean? You tell them everything, or go ahead, Austin.
Do we all agree on what transparency looks like? I think we're all actually really similar, and just the execution of it sometimes horribly goes astray. But I think I think the thing where we, in the interest of time on an agenda, is do we talk about it publicly, or is that an in the loop? And I think that sometimes is where we are less transparent, because I've noticed it feels like we're doing more and more things in the loop, and less less actually on the agenda. And then I think we build some animosity among the board about what does and doesn't get scheduled for a board meeting. But then a thing that a board member asks for that perhaps is not in the majority of the board in the moment ends up living in the loop, which is our internal board memo thing that doesn't go to labor partners. The public doesn't get access to it.
Because you're not talking about it at the board table.
Often dies in our email. I mean, I feel like we don't.
That surprises me a little bit. I actually thought our in the loops have gotten they're not nearly, there used to be so much stuff in the envelope.
It's a lot less.
And it just seems like it's a lot less.
Yeah.
I guess that absolutely probably is. I started with Jason, which perhaps not the best reflection on what it was like before him, but it felt like hardly anything and no real actual substance in the loop. And then now it's just like there's so many of them, and they're things that are perhaps more appropriate for a work session or a deeper dive or an actual topic at a board meeting.
And I think because you don't have a work session, and you may, because I've watched the board meetings where you may ask for something to be, I can tell that what you're getting at is you want it to be talked about at the board meeting, because that's the only place that the public can hear about it. So when you do talk about transparency, are you providing space for there to be transparency? If it's only your board meeting, you're assuming that everybody's just going to watch your meeting, have it says, or come. That may not be a way of showing the community and sharing. So if you did have a study session, that is just another opportunity to do a deeper dive, to talk about whatever your topics are, that maybe you're not ready to talk about them at a board meeting because the staff has not, because you don't have the information. Staff has to be prepared to give you the information, so you can consider, and I believe you guys have on your agenda where you can ask for future topics. You guys do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do that, yeah.
That will give staff, if the board agrees, staff can get prepared for whatever that topic is going to be. But at the moment, they're not prepared to talk about it. I'm going to come back to you. Go ahead, April.
First, I want to thank you for modeling. In Austin, I would say that there was an exchange, and for there to be closure, I don't know. I feel like it would be good if there was something you could acknowledge also.
They touched.
We shook
But we
hands
all-
just for the video.
We all.
We held hands.
You guys go like this.
But this is what a restorative thing is. It's both people acknowledging what happened to one another, and Peter was also upset. So I don't know. This is what it is to model restoration and healing, and I only saw one part of it. So
I'm happy to do that. I didn't want to take away from the work session for a topic that felt like it
we're
wasn't.
talking about modeling this
Ha-
for people.
Happy to do that. I think for me it was not a topic we should have discussed here. It should have been a conversation if one of us should have called the other. And if, so I wasn't going to further address it beyond that. I think there are folks on our board that have tense relationships with each other. I think all parties are to blame, myself included at times. I appreciate the acknowledgement here. I appreciate the apology. I'm sorry for how that made you feel. The intention was I wanted to feel helpful for the parcel tax. Because I know what this means for our kids and our staff and our community. And it felt really hurtful to essentially say you're not valuable enough to be part of this committee or be talked about or know what goes on there, and you offer no benefit. And then you kind of couple that with, that is also the tone that often it feels like on our board. And it was really hurtful to find out from our labor partners that it was already moving ahead, and it felt really irresponsible to go out into the community and have to fumble through what's going on with Measure G because I didn't know as a board. 3 of us didn't know, I'm going to assume, because it's not being shared across. And Jen, I appreciate you prioritizing those conversations with me and making sure that I felt like part of the process. And then it became clear that I could help with some labor endorsements, and that made me feel useful. And that's all I was trying to do. Was Jen asked for some help fundraising, throw together a fundraiser.
Oh wait, I had something to say on transparency though, but I just wanted an opportunity because we all were present for this conversation, so I just appreciate there being a closure there for all of us, really. Thank you.
I'm also sorry that for the dynamic that exists on our board and my role in that at times. And I think all of us are to blame for parts of it, and I don't think there's a bad human on this board. I don't think there's a single person that's not here for the right reason. There's just something about when we walk out into that room that changes how we interact.
So no, just be aware. And one thing I want to say quickly, I appreciate you, Austin, saying how it made you feel. Because usually in an apology, people say, well, I'm sorry you felt that way. So I listen to words mean so much. So again, even if you misstep and cause harm, admit that. It's how I made you feel. Not saying, have to say, well, if you felt this way, I'm sorry. That's not an apology. So I just want to acknowledge that. I appreciate the words. And I think if you all are very intentional about how you approach it when you misstep with each other, you can repair it. You can repair. You're all adults. And I don't want anyone to shut down and not contribute. Because when you have one person missing, that missing link is so important. And then we'll have to get to a better place of 3-2 votes, because that's just...
That's been me. I'm completely shut down. I seriously just only go to the community things, check in with like our study leaders and do like visits and go to events, but like I'm checked out of the board meeting.
But that doesn't help in this, and I know what you're saying, but when we try to get to acknowledging what behaviors that build trust, we're also going to see what breaks trust, and that's unfortunately you guys are going to see a lot of things you're going to be agreeing to. How do we get to a better place for the good of the Board of Education for Hayward, not me sitting in the board seat? Because this team, you have to find 2 great people who are going to want to come on this board. You don't need, you have to deal with so many things. You don't need disruptors, and that could easily happen. I'm dealing with a board of 7, 5 seats are up.
What?
Wow.
Because two resigned before, and now they have to run. And 5 seats out of 5. I know what can happen. Yeah, so I don't want to, so it doesn't matter if you're 5, 7, 9, 11, or 13.
No.
So again, you want to get to understanding transparency too, because, go ahead.
Yeah, so can I comment, because
Yes.
what Austin said, like, where transparency, I agree, like, we all want it to some degree, but I feel like, for me, 90% of the things that I get done happen not in a board meeting. Happen in conversations with Chin, happen in follow-up conversations with Chin, happen when I follow up with the people who let me know about something based on what Chin told me, or that they got a direct call from Chin. Sometimes I'm completely out of, like, I just let her take it. But what I do find to be, like, for example, the charter school thing, or the school closure policy, assembly bill. Like, there are things that sometimes get brought up in the middle of a meeting, and staff doesn't know anything about it. So I feel like it's a missed opportunity for us as board members if we don't give staff an opportunity to do their homework, research it, and then bring forward staff's recommendation based on the research that they did. It does all of us a disservice, because what if there was some legitimacy to that assembly bill? What if there was, I mean, thank God we had the lawyer involved, right? But the board could have made a bad decision, an illegal decision. So as much as there can be, like, I don't know, I feel like too much happens on the dais and not enough happens for pre-work to, like, set staff up for success to get what we want, so that it doesn't happen like in an uninformed moment in front of the public. And that's where I think we look super messy, or we put staff to look like they don't know what they're doing or talking about, and it erodes their ability to trust us. Like, I understand why people are hesitant to support Measure G. Like, I get it, and it's
Yeah.
hard for me to rebuttal that when they see us fumbling all the time.
So
Well,
you
I think
guys
you
don't
touched-
have committees, do you? You don't operate?
We do.
committees?
We do committees, yeah. Well, no, I think Deborah, you touched on this one of our last things where you talked about sometimes when you come into a meeting, are you going into it with, again, good intentions, right? And do you go into it wanting to ask questions for yourself, for the public, or are you trying to get a gotcha,
Right.
right? And it's the gotchas I feel like sometimes are not well intended.
And not fair to our staff.
And it's not fair to your colleagues either, because you don't want anyone in the community to think that if I'm a board member, it's just me, that I'm the one who know it all, I get it all right, and my colleagues who I serve with don't care. Because that's what the perception could be.
Well, that's what we hear all the time
Yeah.
from the people
Yeah.
that don't agree. Like, the 2 vote gets empowered by people getting up to the podium to accuse the other 3 of us who voted yes. We look like the bad guys because we're, like, you see it, you hear people from the public, other leaders get up and say things like that. So it's incredibly unfair to us.
That we're ugly, we should go to hell.
Oh, well, I'm
Those all
talking
the-
about even our leaders in the district
Yeah.
doing that to us.
Bad. And again, that is what board members you have to work at, because it's not about any one individual. It's about collectively what we do. You can talk about your differences, but when you focus on student well-being, what we're trying to make a decision about, without accusing anyone of not doing their job, staff doing their job. If you guys have, through your superintendent, given them all they need to be prepared, then what they're delivering to you should be what you want to be able to make decisions. So, it's just work that you have to do when we do get caught up in what I want. And we all know there's no I, and we know that. But this is what it looks like. So I'm telling you, as someone who watches your meetings, and I hear it too, I have several clients in the area, that's what people see. That's what they walk away from. So you can change it. Again, just being intentional about how you engage, because what you see, the intent, again, what's the intent? What's the reason for doing X? What did you get out of doing that to cause board members a little angst? That's what I always, when I'm watching this. And then it's obvious that you're not talking to each other outside the board meeting. Because one thing you said, April, several things though, but this particular, that most of the work is done away from the dais. So I'm just wondering, where's the opportunity? So when you're working one-on-one with Chen, or does anyone send questions to Chen about?
Yeah.
Okay, Chen, when you answer it, do you share it you give it to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, for the board meetings that they sent, that there's a protocol when anyone sends me a question.
One person, I'm just trying to make sure no one should feel that they're not informed. That's where I'm going. Go ahead, Austin. Go
I
ahead.
do think we could do a better job of doing that as a board. It's often just me submitting questions.
So what would you like to see when you say do a little bit better?
Yeah,
What suggestions do you have?
I think part of it is also how we educate our colleagues, and so like as the new member of the board, like I think it's a little bit of, and soon to be not the newest member of the board, I think for those that remain, asking some questions ahead of time of this is a thing that the new person may not be aware of. We want our colleagues to know because they're neutral, you can't tell who they come from, yada yada yada. I would have appreciated a little bit more of that, like in reflection.
I would say though, Austin, I was meeting with you regularly and I felt like everything you and I talked about would go in one ear and out the other, and it just started to feel like a waste of time to have those conversations with you. So like I really did try to invest in like working in that way with you, but like forgive me, but I'm not going to continue to invest my time and energy into something that felt like it wasn't being taken seriously. So I pulled back from doing that.
It was, my particular question was more about like questions for agenda items.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like anything related to the agenda, either before meetings or after, you and I were doing check-ins, and I thought having productive conversations, but then it would just go totally a different way. So I just stopped having those interactions with you. But I don't submit mine in writing to Chin. Chin and I in our check-ins have conversations, and we actually don't even we have our own system of when we check in, and so I just ask Chin when I have questions. I don't submit them for written response because I don't want to take our staff's time up with doing all of that, especially when we're so short-staffed. And Chin is also incredibly busy. So I'm opposed to 14-page responses from staff for questions that board members have. Like, I'm not going to do that.
Okay. Anyone else want to add before we go to this next one?
Can I add a?
Yes, absolutely, jump in.
So I think what the first question on the last slide was around accountability, right, and also monitoring of superintendent. I'm gonna name that it's incredibly helpful for me, and the reason why I named the check-in as an incredibly helpful tool for me in the beginning is because I don't like, and I said it at my evaluation last year, and I'll say it this year, I don't like getting feedback at the end of the year, right? It's too late for me to change course. And so the one-to-ones are incredibly useful for me because I would rather you tell me now that some expectation wasn't met, or you were hoping something different would happen, or whatever the feedback is in real time. And I do want to name that individually you've all done that for me to some extent or another, but that's helping me shape the expectations of the things, the roadmap, and so that we can be clearer and clearer and finer and finer in the way that we present, right? And also alleviates my anxiety when the staff is up there presenting that we missed the mark somewhere along the line. So those are, I'm going to encourage folks to do that. I mean, the way I look at evaluation tools, it's a feedback tool. It's not a gotcha tool. It never was designed that way, and not the way I interpret it. And so I think sometimes we use it as punishment, right? Like, it's not about punishment, it's about helping people grow.
That's right. That's right.
And so it's like the individual check-ins are important to me, and that I feel like it's a good check-in for monitoring. That helps me change course along the way. That helps my staff change course along the way. And I'm going to encourage the board to continue to do that because that's something that I feel is important for me to be as honest as possible. Right? Like it's not. I mean, I'm going to assume it's for the betterment of all of our district, not that you're extra critical of me because of whatever personal reason or another. But I'm just going to encourage folks to continue to do that in terms of like holding me accountable for things by giving me consistent feedback in a way that I can actually materialize the things that we all want in the world.
Okay, let's look at this one. Leading as one united team. What does speaking with one voice mean to us? How can we disagree productively while remaining unified publicly? How can the board superintendent model collaboration? So you guys kind of touched on it, which that's what my intent was to get you to start talking about. To realize that you don't look like a one united team. And being a one united team does not mean that you're rubber stamping everything. There's a lot of, you can start out a conversation where you're both at different ends of the spectrum, but it's how do we come together if it's a yes we need to get to based upon the information. So it needs to always be based upon data, based upon research, trends, all of these things, not what someone feels. We tend to put a lot of energy into the emotional aspect. And I know we're all human. It tugs at your heart when you have 100 people coming to the podium saying what's dear and true to them, but that is period. That's a piece of the puzzle. And you've been elected to represent the entire district and making those decisions. So just speaking with one voice, do you even agree on what that is?
No.
I know you don't. I created this especially for you because of what I see. But I want us to talk about it because you don't talk about this at the
I
board.
would say we feel this is
So what does it look like? Again, how do I know? What does it look like in practice that you speak with one voice?
Well, I mean, if we could talk about like what our board protocols say is that at the end of the day, whatever the board decides that day, we support. That is the will of the board. I don't. That is not the case.
No.
We don't talk about it in terms of 3-2 anymore. We talk about it.
Don't you guys have this?
This is what the
Yes.
board decided.
You know what this is? Your handbook? Remember we had a big discussion and I bet the page, look at that, the pages are still red. I don't know if you've ever completed that because there were some not agreements on Because you have norms and protocols, like you said. But until you know, I think we kind of got stuck on this, because then something else happened, and I think maybe that's when you lost your superintendent too. But
We did end up voting on it at a later date.
Yeah, we
so
did
it
confirm
shouldn't
it.
be read anymore.
Yeah.
okay, so but do
Does this one
you?
have Austin's name on it? May I?
No, it doesn't.
Then we do have.
Yeah, the one with
minutes.
Austin's name on it
Yeah.
is the-
We have
But do you follow it? Do you reference
No.
it?
No.
It's not followed.
Right, no,
To the
because
T,
I
not to
circled
the
it
T.
because Austin's not on there, but that would be helpful because you put a lot of energy into it, so you don't have to recreate the wheel. You stay in your handbook, you answer that question. What is speaking one voice, and why isn't the team understanding what that means? And usually we go to, if the media talks, who should be quoted in the paper about the board's decision? Okay.
Peter.
The media is going to do the media job. They're going to go to whoever they have a relationship with. So it's nothing bad for board members, but your protocol, your norm is the board president speaks on behalf of the board. And no board president would just speak on what they feel. They've already touched, they know the pulse of the board. And so are you modeling that? What some things are going on where it doesn't seem like you're a one united team? Go ahead, Austin, jump in.
So, I work in local government and living, and then like that seat, when your person in a leadership role doesn't have a pulse on every board because it's a fractured board, I think it then becomes really hard to, like, I hate the term trust, but to be a unified voice when like you weren't involved in that thing, or you don't see you in like what's being said or what's being done. And I think that's really hard too because we have not transitioned our board presidency specifically, like most school boards. It's like getting things on the agenda is really hard, and those kind of things I think make like the. I don't think we have an issue with like folks talking to media or anything on our board. I also like. I don't believe I've ever referenced like, oh, it was a 3-2 vote, or going back into like the depths of time and looking up past meeting agenda minutes, and like no one cares about any of that. Like you win some votes, you lose some votes, you move to the next.
In the job, the goal should be for any board not to be split. So is what do I need to do? Because what signals are you sending Chen and her staff? Because you guys are dealing with you can go home and sleep at night, but what are you modeling? What message are you sending and the community that this board can't agree on what's best for children? Because maybe this is where each of you have to see, am I putting what my beliefs or what I want in front of what is good based upon facts, based upon the data, based upon what the superintendent is even recommending. No superintendent will ever put forth a recommendation without doing their due diligence to put it before the board. So when the board can't even agree of what the superintendent and staff have worked very hard to put before you, that's a problem. And it is what you're modeling, what message you're sending to me. I think, did I have you over here first, or you're good?
Yeah.
Sarah, did you? I want to just get all the voices. If you have something, do you want to jump in on this?
Sure. I mean, if we're talking about that last 3-2, I would have had to have seen more work, and I'm not just saying for like the past 6 months, on what we could do to save people who make our schools safer, to change, to talk about like when we do measures, what happens to the money? You know, there's far too many questions that go unanswered for me to be like, oh, I truly believe that the staff and the superintendent are doing everything that they can for the better of children. There's far too much corruption in who's in what position and who gets saved and who gets, and even in our hiring process, there's not transparency. There's too much like nepotism. And I'm gonna help you get this position. I'm gonna do this. There's not enough. There's not enough to be like, I trust that she has everything she needs and that she can fully rely on her staff and everything to bring me the best situation that's going to protect, and if I'm being selfish, my child that's at the school and the district. When you're taking away the safety that ensures that my child and every child in those schools from 8 or 7 something until 6 o'clock at night are okay in this administration, and you're taking away those people that make those kids safe, and we've made financial irresponsible, I'm not saying just the board, but we have people who are still there today who have made irresponsible decisions that have caused huge financial problems, like the payroll problem. You don't just get rid of the person who messed up in the payroll. You don't get just, there's all these different things that contribute to taking away the trust to when you get to this decision. Are you sure you tried everything? But what about this? Did you meet with that school community to find out if there was something else that can be done? Have we really stressed everything that can be done? And can I trust the people who are doing it? Because historically, we haven't been able to. And so
I hear you.
So I don't think, yeah. I think when you, a 2-3 is an honest vote. It would be nice to have a 5 vote, but that means a lot of work would have to be done in order to get that 5 vote, and that's not all on the board. It means I need to get what I need to feel secure and being like, all right, I understand. I believe the work has been done. I believe you're being honest. I believe that you're not just trying to protect you and your homies, and I'm just talking frank or whatever, at the expense of children. And then I'm going to vote for this.
Right, and you said a key thing too, Sarah, is that the work has been done. Maybe it's okay that you don't do a 5-0. I'm just saying 3-2s. That's something that you should look at to say, what can we do differently? And it could be, before we start talking, just say it's a budget. Maybe you look at the amount of time that you're having to make these budget cuts or whatever. Maybe you should start 2 months earlier. If you try to think of different processes in place, it will help you get to a point where you're like, we have exhausted. Superintendent, you have done everything, and you trust but verify. You have to get to a point where you have to trust the administration. I know there's been history, but you have a new superintendent, a new leader. You have to trust but verify. That's how the board has, because you're not the day-to-day. You can't control the abilities or lack of abilities of all staff people. That's not the board. That's on your superintendent. And it takes time. And do you have unions? I'm just saying. Some people are protected. It's harder to do, but that doesn't mean you don't focus on it. So what the board needs to say, what's the plan, superintendent, to address this? If you know that these are issues, what's the plan, superintendent, to address it? And give her time to work through some obstacles. I think those are conversations that the team needs to have. If you guys know some history, or there's some spots that just are not producing, there's some past behaviors, practices that have been allowed to occur that just need to stop. That's what the board collectively, superintendent, this is causing problems here, and here's the evidence. You always want to talk about the evidence, not anything about what we feel. And I listen to all of you guys, and you seem to come with receipts, if you will. You have some evidence. Give the superintendent time to figure out what this is. And say, our expectation is this. And then allow her and her staff to go back and do what's necessary. I think if the team engages more like that, you will get to a point where you can trust but verify. But it does take time. And you guys, the last 3 years, this way with leadership. I'm anticipating, hopefully you can get to a point where you see the light at the end of the tunnel. That we're getting there. But you have to talk it through, work it out, and get to an understanding. Yes, if we have to do a 3-2, I can give my explanation. You don't have to. Some people, board members, give an explanation. And it has everything to do, or it doesn't have anything to do with what I feel personally. It's about the data. It's about I don't have enough information. So if I hear more of that, I can understand 3-2s. Okay, jump on in.
I think the part that you may not hear because you're listening to the recording is we have a culture on our board of a lot of like under our breath comments that are not within the mic.
But
And we hear it, we're sitting right next to
you.
each other.
I
No,
see.
even like the ones who are not in camera
Oh,
that are said. And
oh.
the way I interpret that as someone who's heard them is like, you're off topic, which say it into the mic then if that's cool.
Who are you saying now?
We've said it happens among our board.
I have never heard that. I have never heard that.
But when you said off camera, did you say off camera or off
Never
mic?
once.
What did you
Both.
say?
Comments under our breath where we're clearly frustrated with each other.
Can you give an
and
example? I have never heard.
It happens.
It does.
I never heard it.
And it's dismissive and then we often say like, oh no, you don't get to say anything else. We've now moved on. And I think those things make it hard to explain why it was a 3-2 vote.
And I do see this happening.
Can
I hear you. Jump on in. Jump on in.
I mean,
Go
I
ahead.
do feel the need to defend Peter a little bit here because it is first of all, in terms of board members, Chin and the board president act on the will of the board, consensus of the board. An individual board member's request is just that.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have power unless you have backing. So you can't just, it is Peter's job